Andy. I'm a salesman. I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturing and project companies for 38 years. I worked all over North America. I worked with hundreds, if not over 1,000 companies. So, in my career.
And my name is Steve Moon. I've been a business solutions consultant with ESS for 12 years.
My name is Dan Teller. I'm the marketing and operations VP at Essential Software. I've been using Infor ERP for over 25 years in various shapes or forms. First 10 was as a user, much as you folks are evaluating. I was typically planter operations manager, and ERP was my weapon of choice to overcome our challenges and achieve our goals. After that, I was a consultant for 7 or 8 years, did about 45 implementations coast to coast, and then founded a company, a practice out here in Western Canada to do what we did, but do it better with local support. And then I merged or partnered with Essential Software about 4 years ago, and that's where we how we do things. So I can help guide us through the software and listen to your business and translate that into functionality.
And in regards to Essential Software, that's the company we represent. Obviously, we work with this ERP software, which we're going to be showing you some today. But the really nice thing about us is that we're local. We're offices out in Vancouver, and we have about 15 people in total that work with us, and they're all similar experienced as the three of us.
Born and raised Maple Ridge.
Born and raised, well, actually, I was born in Vancouver, but I was raised in Langley.
All right. I'm Megan Dykstra. For this project, I'm representing as a business analyst, so what I was originally hired for, supporting the requirements analysis and looking at our requirements as we're evaluating some software.
I'm Rick Hawkins, a senior estimator. I've been in the manufacturing business still for 52 years. So
you started when you were 5?
Yeah, that's true. And I've done almost every position, from engineering to purchasing to expediting to shop fabricator, detailer.
You used to have hair at one time, right?
Yeah.
So did I.
I was told I did.
Oh, my turn. I'm Jeff. I work in IT, used to be purchasing. Been here for 14 years. You guys already know me.
We are.
I'm Carlo. I'm part of the HR team. Been here for about 3 years, so pretty short compared to the rest of you. Before that, I was in high tech. I haven't worked with this system before.
What kind of high tech?
I worked at Fortinet, like a security company.
Okay.
Yeah, they do corporate and government firewalls.
Wow. And you say you've used this software before?
No, I haven't. I haven't used this one before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you've used other ERP before?
I've used other HR systems before. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Lucy, works for Dynamic Structures for almost 14 years. And I've already introduced myself.
Hi, Don.
Everybody here knows me.
Howard, who are you?
Howard, I do as little as possible.
Thank God. Thank God. I want your job.
You'll be the one snoring in the corner.
As long as you're getting paid for it, that's all that matters.
Make sure we all get paid.
What do you do, Howard?
I'm the controller.
Okay, thank you. As little as possible.
All right, so
Hey, young man.
first of all, do you guys rather have the lights on or off? Are you guys okay seeing it?
I'll be off. I don't know.
We'll turn them off. Pardon?
Off is good. There you go, that's better.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the phone?
Well, we're recording this, that's one of the reasons it's on, and then we also have Carrie, hopefully will join in.
Okay.
Did she hit the
That's
record
all
button?
you.
Oh, here we go again.
Good thing we got you here.
I should be recording, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to give you a little look-see at AR, APGL and functions like that. Then we'll also probably go into a little bit of cash flow analysis and milestone billings and things like that. And then get into HR, your topic. And then if there's other things regarding IT, we can certainly cover that too.
So the solution that we're presenting to you is Cloud Suite Industrial, right? As you can see in the solutions wheel here, there's a whole bunch of different modules, and they're all integrated together into like a full financial module. So at the end of this demonstration, what I'm going to show you on the finance side, we're going to go in and we're going to run some reports using a report writer, which is actually based out of Excel. It's a plugin that works directly with Excel and accesses the CSI databases in behind. Okay. So for those of you who have sat in on this morning's demonstration, there's several screens that we can go into. This is just one of many home pages that we have. This is the controller home.
That's a quick question. When you said the reports are generated in Excel, does that mean you're exporting the data from here to Excel to create reports? Are those reports being able to be manipulated in Excel?
Okay.
Because I know for HR, or not HR, but accounting, sometimes they don't like to be able to manipulate the data outside of the software.
It's a choice. You don't have to. Just for people that are, everyone's familiar with Excel, it just makes it look simple, right? But it's a choice. You can do the reports right out of the system if you don't want to.
Okay. Just to clarify, there are reports that are generated in the system. They can be exported to Excel, any of the CAD reports can be exported to Excel, any of the data views that you saw a little bit earlier with Dan there, they can be exported to Excel. But what I'm talking about here is specifically the Excel report writer for financial statements. So that's your balance sheet, your profit and loss statement, and do a file balance. And what it does is it connects directly to the Sightline back end, and it extracts the data. Okay, and it allows you to use all the formatting that you have in Excel to produce professional financial statements.
Thanks for the question, Jim.
Okay, so this is one of many of the home pages. This is the controller home page, so of particular interest to you there.
But just to be clear, we talked about this morning, whenever we're showing a home page or a dashboard like this, it's totally user definable. So even though it's set up generically for a controller, you might want out KPIs or change it completely. Okay.
And you can see there are several KPIs that are on here right now. There's a cash balance that shows all of your cash accounts at a glance. Some of them are, deeply in the negative. Pardon me?
Which part? The first one? The first page?
We already hooked it up to your data.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't go all the way down.
Not low enough, eh? And here you find a rolling cash impact statement. So basically we're looking at the cash impact that we have over time. This is looking at the totals of AR and AP together, just so that you have like a projected cash flow at a glance. You've got your days sales outstanding here and days payable outstanding. The section over here shows that we have one task that's due and 5 messages in our inbox. So the inbox actually integrates with the event messaging system, so we set up alerts based on different interactions in the system and have people log in. You have your own inbox and say your cash flow gets a certain percentage.
Does that tie into Exchange? Okay,
There's,
thank you.
Yes.
And so that's just some of the features. And then obviously there's a full setup, sort of options here where you're linking to different forms. Okay. Over here we have the Navigator tab. The Navigator tab, this gives you information at a glance that you can use. So here we're looking at a customer analysis. So this is basically your aged AR sitting there. So you're looking at all of your customers' balances, their credit limits, their order credit limits, what's the current balance, and what's in the age 31 to 60. So it's putting you in different buckets. As with anything else in CSI, you can filter on this grid, you can move the columns around. If you want to see the total up front, you can easily manipulate that, sort it. So I click on the total and double click it. I'm looking at it from sorted from high to low. That's your low end. I click on it again. Okay. There's your high. So you can easily tell that your number one customer here, based on AR, is for sporting goods.
So this would bring in multi-currency, such as I see right there.
Yes.
Australia and US.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this grid view that we're showing, obviously, is to do with accounts receivable and customers and things like that. But this could be any data in the entire system. HR data could be anything. So you can do this kind of slicing and dicing built in. Okay?
to further that, you have a couple of buttons up here. You have options to export it, so you can export it to Excel, then you view the entire grid in Excel. This isn't the report writer that I was talking about, but just anywhere where you see a grid in CSI, you can export it into Excel. If this was something that you could write back to, you would change the values right back in. So you might do that, something like that for manipulating your chart of accounts.
It's in a grid, you can export it.
Yep. So you see you've got a customer analysis. I hit the button here, export to Excel, and because I'm running this in a web browser, it just opens it up down here. And this is
There it is.
There it is.
Can I export anything into Excel?
Any grid that you see in CSI, you can
It's not
export.
in a grid.
What would it be?
It will be in a grid.
You show me.
If it's a data
Oh,
field in
yeah.
the system, it'll be in a grid.
Yeah. So if you were looking at something like, if I go over to the
There's lots of data view screens, different fields in each one.
So in most screens, I'm just going into the chart of accounts. We follow this sort of layout here, where you've got a form view up here, which is the information on a particular record, and then you have a grid view down here. You have a splitter bar over here that you can move to the left or right to expose different areas of the screen. And because this is a grid, you can export this to an Excel sheet as well. Okay, and as I move and select different different accounts, you see that the detailed view in the chart of accounts here changes as well.
I assume you've had feedback from many accountants that that's probably the number one thing is to export it to Excel.
Yeah.
It certainly is popular.
Yeah. Okay.
And another really good feature that I'm going to show you a little bit later on is the Excel financial statements. Do you currently do your financial statements in Excel?
It's in this fiscal report.
Oh, okay.
There's good and bad with that. I mean, Excel could be manipulated, so if you send it to auditors, they don't like it.
Let me know.
They want something printed out.
We understand. And that's what you would send your auditors.
We have a
It's something
combination.
printed out of the system.
Yeah, we have a combination of reporting. One is through Factual, one is Triple Store reports.
No problem.
Or not Factual, Timberline.
Can you make that permission based, so like, if you want a certain user not to export any data to Excel, they can't do it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the permissions, when we get into the IT section, we can table that there, but the permissions are very granular. You can say, don't export this, don't have access to this. You can do it at the component level. You have full control over what users can and can't see.
I think what we'll do is at the end of it, we'll go into the IT stuff, because I don't think these guys are gonna want it.
I agree.
Interested, so let's wait for the end of the IT stuff.
I agree.
So customer aging, basically, we have a vendor analysis tab. Okay, so there's our vendor analysis. So basically the same thing over on the AP side, right? Aged into buckets, you can manipulate the columns. Another feature that we have with any grid is, this was the export to Excel. You can also export any screen to a data view at the push of the button, right? Dan showed you a little bit earlier today how you can go in and use a data view that's pre-built, that's on the screen. But again, anything that you have that is that is a grid system can be exported to a data view. That's any screen, pretty much. So you do something like that, and then you have your the ability to group by specific things. So if we were grouping by a bucket, age 31 to 60 data, you do that, and then you've got your summaries here too. You can add summaries to each one.
These views that everybody, so Howard's gonna wanna see something different than
Right.
just, like, they can customize their own views when they go in, they don't
First,
use
absolutely.
that, correct it,
Yeah.
it's that setting.
So what you would do in that case is you would, once you get everything looking the way that you would want to, you go to Manage Layout, you go Save As. Actually, Dan went through this already, but
I wanna see
Yeah,
these guys.
yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
things that could.
What about if, like, say, I post the AP, USD, or Australia dollar? So is that way have a foreign exchange link to the internet? Like, say, today's foreign exchange rate now?
So what we have today
Yeah.
is we maintain the rates manually, so you decide how often you would like to do this, but that's a really interesting question, because what we're thinking of doing, we're always looking for new projects. We have a developer who came up with this idea that he specializes in web calls and APIs, like being able to interface with that. And he wants to go and write one. This would be a common thing for CSI, all of our CSI customers, to go and grab the exchange rates and
Yeah.
write them back in. Okay, and we have a whole bunch of ideas here. There's a daily, weekly, obviously you could set it on the schedule.
So out of the box, it's manually updated as often as you want to update the currencies. But we could set it to be automated if we wanted to.
And where would that come from? You just,
You tell us.
it'll be a large system somewhere that gets updated by
Yeah.
a minute.
Yes, or as often as you want, yes.
All of that information for the currency rates, it lives in, there's a currency,
I noticed, so maybe QuickBooks can link into that foreign exchange, and then they can calculate automatically with foreign exchange gain and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay, we have a full bank reconciliation, we have a time phase cash impact. So if you look at this is going to show you, your cash, going into the future. So basically looking at AR, AP, customer order lines, projects, progressive billings, all of that sitting here, in buckets. So, going out, rolling into the future. And this is what the graph that you saw at the beginning of the home page is actually based on. And again, you can use, you can move the columns around. Obviously, you want to keep these in sequence. You could export it to Excel to use in your own reporting. That's a possibility. And you can also use filtering. I'm not sure if we touched on the filtering capabilities that we have. There's a filter button over here. So maybe you only want to look at stuff that's, coming up here. So you say greater than 0, and then go in and filter this grid so that you're only looking at things that are relevant to the current period, right? And here we have AP, AR, cash in, cash out.
Very on time.
Did the introductions already?
Yes.
We got through there. So trial balance here, this might take a little bit of time to load, but it's well worth it. So you can have a sort of a moving trial balance, or not moving, but a dynamic trial balance that you can use a cutoff date to specify your trial balance as of the particular date. So this is without running any reports as well.
Yeah, for current timberland, we have Excel trial balance, only the current period. The previous period we can no.
Really?
Because they close, we have mostly closed.
Wow.
So we have flows, so different financial statements set up. How do you do this? Just sort of a little how-to kind of thing. It's a little small, so we can configure. Running in a web browser, so I can just easily zoom in. So we've got, create your journal entries and post your journals, that sort of thing, and it's got steps to your end closing as well.
Question for you.
Yes.
For the GL, a lot of times I go print a lot of stuff for the accountant, and our GL is so large that I cannot even export it to an Excel file. I have to export it to a text file and then import it into Excel and adjust it in a convoluted file, right? Is there a size limitation on how large these files can get?
So are you talking about the GL posted transactions?
Correct. Details. Right. And I need beginning and ending balances, and it needs to be for a year at a time.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with pulling that, because you never get any limitations on size?
I should mention that when we talk about GL accounts, that if you're able to bring up the concept slide for the finance, very quick under financial compliance, and then the bottom on the left, GL at the bottom. And then go to, probably right under chart of accounts, the unit codes. Yeah, right there. So one of the things that we can do with CSI to reduce the number of GL accounts that you have is use what we call unit codes. So, for example, revenue accounts. You don't need a revenue account for every line of business per se. You need one revenue account and several unit codes, and unit code 2 as an example, to define your lines of business. So that when you're writing your financial statements, you can slice and dice by these different unit codes. So let's just look at, the P&L for rides, right, versus telescope. I'm not quite sure what that is for you folks yet, but it allows you to run your financial statements by slicing and dicing up to 4 unit codes. So usually department, product line, and then the other 2 are whatever the business case is. Sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to.
Okay.
Okay, so actually staying with the slides here, if you go in, this gives you a nice overview. I touched on at the beginning on the solutions wheel, you saw a whole bunch of different modules that were all integrated around the financial system. So this gives you a little bit of a deeper dive into it. So we have inventory, we have order entry, purchasing, these all are sort of sub-processes. They're all feeding into different modules, and you see that they all end up in the general ledger, right? And this includes projects as well. So projects is a big part of your business, so obviously other projects organization there. So it's just another module. We have a full project management module inside CSI. And all the transactions that happen, all the WIP that accumulates in your projects, right? All the expenses that go get tracked into different cost code buckets. Okay? And they create journal entries in your general ledger. Okay, so just a few little flows that they have. So we've got sales orders. There's a customer order to AR flow. I mean, we can go into detail as much as you like in any of these. But there is, when you ship, you get your cost of goods sold as hit. Then you go through your order to invoicing, and that it all ends up in an AR distribution journal. Of course, it's all end up in your general ledger at the end of things. Same with the PO to AP flow. So the purchase order is vouchering, goes through, and everything's reportable at the end. So maybe what it would make sense to do is sort of look at some of the project side of things. Does this be a good sort of area to go into for you guys right now?
Sure.
So again, with projects, we have a home page. So this is the controller home page, but we also have a project lifecycle section here. So this is a fully integrated module that we're looking at. And you can see that we've got a few KPIs. So we've got the top 5 projects by revenue. We've got the top 5 projects by planned costs. We've got invoice milestones and revenue milestones here. So there's nothing sort of in the future here. A lot of our project data is a little bit in the past here. Okay, and we've got links to all of our different forms up here that we can use. And again, it's fully customizable. You can go in, you can change this around. It's a personalization, not a customization, right? Any user can do this and save their own version of the form. So if you have, say, 8 project managers, they may have different areas that they want to go into and look at. So they can easily do this themselves. Over here on the Get Navigator tab, you may have noticed that these Navigator sort of sections are the ones that have all these grids that have all this data that you can see. So if you look at, there's nothing on the top list because again, the data is a little bit.
Project manager out, middle finger of the filter.
Not to the second empty grid, I was sort of wondering there. So you look, we have a whole list of projects here, and you see that there's a variance indicator. So this is a really useful tool to have. The checkbox indicates that everything is okay, it's within control, and then as soon as you see one of these exclamation points, you see that there is an issue. So I select that particular project, and it shows here the tasks that are within the project. Okay, so you see that the first one is in control. So this is basically showing the tasks that are involved. This is engineering. Again, this is a bicycle demo database, so it's much simpler sort of example than what you're probably used to doing, right? But here they're engineering a moped, and then they're constructing the test site. So it looks like there's a schedule variance here. So I click on the schedule variance tab, or just the task for constructing the site. It tells me where things are late. There's variances here, here, and here. So those things are all of the resources that are tied into this project.
Where does schedule come from?
The schedule. So this is basically your start and end dates for the task. And if something's out of there, then we can drill into it a little bit and see why. And we see that the resources, which could be material, labor, those are all data as well. We can look at the cost code analysis. So these are different project cost codes. So this is sort of the, I guess the building blocks, or if you will, of the project. Okay, when you first start your project, you figure out what are my cost codes, what do I want to keep track of individually, and then everything that you do, whether it's AR or an AP transaction, if you're posting a voucher and it's coded to a specific task within your project, that cost will go into that cost code that you've assigned to. And so all of your costs are accumulating, and you can slice and dice your reporting according to these cost codes.
See the deal.
So,
2 to the left.
okay. So it would probably be a good idea. I think there's a good overview slide that shows you, but the way that projects are structured is you have your project. You can have several projects as well that are tied under a work breakdown structure. Okay, so you might have several related projects and you can report on the cost codes. You pick and choose which tasks relate to that WBS. Within a project, you have multiple tasks, which you just saw. And then assigned to those tasks are resources. It could be material resource, and in this case, these are all, since they're tied to purchase orders, these are material resources. And this is just telling you what's actually being assigned to the resource. So we look here, there's some trees, some shrubs, because we're getting some landscaping company here, right? And it's just showing you the different POs that are assigned to there's a cutoff date that you can change here, and you can specify your breakdown structure as well.
So you can pick, I need to see all the POs issued to EX6. Not only all the POs, but have they been invoiced against?
Could be added.
Say you have $1 million purchase order, and the progress billing you $100,000 once a month, right? Right. You have a report to show that, okay, they've invoiced us $600,000, so this is what's remaining.
We would have to create that report, but it'd be very easy to do.
I'm kind of surprised it's not one of your standard reports that you have, because we can't be the only company that does progress billing.
Right, so we have like that, so for your progress, oh, you're talking about, so percentage of completion, most likely, right?
Yeah, so if I
Right.
issue a purchase order for $1 million, and I'm getting an invoice once a month for $100,000, I want to know how much I have received in invoices and what's remaining. So I'm asking you guys, who doesn't have a report saying $1 million is the purchase order, so far I've been invoiced $600,000.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that's, yeah, so that's more the purchasing module. So if we look at a purchase order.
It wouldn't be under the PM module as well?
Well, I mean, you get all the modules, right? So in this particular case, what you probably want to do is you want to look at that purchase order, and we have what we call a document lifecycle management. So you would look at that, you click the button on the PO, and it shows you basically like all of the receipts for that PO, and then all of the invoices that were issued against it. So in a nice like sort of waterfall chart.
Okay, under the AP module.
Maybe
More in AP, yeah. And you can access the same document management from or document lifecycle from the AP screen too.
So if I'm a project manager, I would have to go to the AP module to see this report.
Right, but there's again, you can go in, you can add your own links as well.
You could have shortcuts.
It's not really module by module, you're gonna
Right.
build your own.
Yeah, you have your own
section.
menu
Yeah.
of assortment of different modules.
Yeah. So right up here, I have this is the menu that I have, and I've got like different things, and you can customize this and make it your own, right? So you might have under your project management, you might have your document lifecycle right there, so that you can easily see it.
Can I see how that report would look like to you?
Yeah. So if we look at or actually probably. So this is sort of the details of all your AP posted transactions. So if I look at, say, a voucher, which would represent a vendor's invoice, okay, we can sort of see the history behind each one. Okay, so here is your purchase order document lifecycle, right? We have the same functionality in AR. What this is going to do is list all of our requisitions that led to So it's kind of going backwards and saying, okay, so we're over here at vouchers. This is the voucher that I had selected. Here's all the purchase order requisitions that may have led, because it might be multiple purchase orders, it might have been multiple requisition lines, right? And there's the purchase order. Here's the receiving that was done, okay? And then here's your actual voucher, which is where we drilled into it, and here's the payment that was made. Right? And this is a pretty simple example. I could dig around and probably find a nicer one with some more information with a purchase order that has more receipts and more vouchers and payments made against it.
Now sometimes what we are AP, they have like say you purchase a order like 100 and your invoice is 150. They will appeal you over the purchase is over the PO, so that you will see why is this invoice is over the PO, so you can find the problem. That function can immediately show your PO only 100, while your invoice have 150. So
you have your variance analysis from your purchase order.
you're not be aware this is over the invoice cost is over the PO.
And you can set limits on that as well. You can set, and voucher tolerances, so you're allowed to. You can have.
5% or 1%.
Exactly.
I'm taking it as a homework item to find a better report for this. I'm confident that it's in there. It's just a question that we didn't anticipate or.
So this is telling me the voucher is for $743. We did invoice $318.
The invoice is
So the invoice amount is $743, and so far we paid $312.
Talking about the AR center.
Are you happy?
I don't think it's very easy to read.
That's fine, Howard. We'll come back with some suggestions for you, but realize all these screens are personalized by you. So you can make them as easy to read as you want with the exact data you want.
Okay, so if the PO is for $100,000 and we get an invoice for $120, okay, what's gonna happen to the AP person who is entering that transaction?
Depends if you're using invoice matching and if you've got threshold exact percentage. So.
Well, this is way over the threshold.
Well, then it would stop them. It would
stop.
Yeah.
We would not be able to enter that in.
Right.
So purchasing has to go correctly first. And then it can be entered.
Those are the tolerances. Of course, we can create workflows as well, okay, so that if there is a discrepancy like that, we get alert. So we were sort of looking at some of these. When we look at, say, costing or project control, there is a particular flow to the GL that you see. So part of it is printing and posting revenue milestones. So this is how we can recognize revenue. I'm going to go in and have a look at just the posting screen. So if we looked at the actual revenue milestone itself, there's different ways that you can recognize revenue. So you can do like a percentage of project completion, right? And then compare it to say like your final amount that you have. So we're billing the customer $6 million. Your project's 20% complete. So then you can just have a straight formula. You have to recognize 20% of that. There's multiple ways that we can do that, and we'll go through that with you in implementation as well. And you have a complete separation, or you have the ability to completely separate your revenue from your invoicing. So you can set up an invoicing schedule. It's not based on your revenue recognition, because maybe you say, let's do it on, as soon as the materials arrive on site, we issue your first invoice, right? But we're going to recognize revenue on a monthly basis as a percentage of completion. and of course you would tie it all up when the project is complete. We do retentions, so you can do a project retention invoice. It's common in the construction industry, so I'm sure that you have that, so you have a 10% hold back, as you're billing your customers, and then you have the ability to bill that at the very end. Things like, what is it, 2 months after project completion. We have that added in, and we have project labor. So project labor, basically, you're going in here and you're specifying which project, which task, and who is the worker, and what shift was he working on. And you go in and you enter in how many hours you worked that day. Of course, as pay rates default, this goes directly into your cost of your project. Okay. So you can see that we have several that have not been posted yet. Okay. And the thing that I'd like to point out is that you see in Form View all these fields, and they are also duplicated across in this grid view. Okay. So you can export it to Excel. This is what most people do. And then enter the timesheets into Excel, and then bring them in to CSI.
If you're doing timesheets, if you're using factory tracks, you're entering it automatically using the interface that I showed in the first session.
Okay, so that's the project labor transaction. Okay. So as you're posting all these, they end up in a projects journal, and all the journals get posted to your GL on a monthly basis or daily basis, however often you want. Typically, it's whenever you run financial statements, which is going to be end of the month. Pre-project resource transactions. So basically, you can ship one of the resources or materials that go into a project. And it's worth noting that you can actually tie in multiple jobs to a project. So you can actually have a full job structure along with scheduling and resource allocation, and then have that job produce a resource, which could be like one of your codes, right? If you have your code 500 that you're working on, and maybe a job that's associated with that, that will roll up all those costs into one resource that can get issued to the project. Okay, project resource transactions. And obviously, as you're doing all this, you're accumulating what gets relieved at the time that you're posting the revenue milestones.
And all this ties, I don't know if this is too early, ties to the job costing as well. Is that what we can talk about a little later?
The project costing, yes.
Yeah, well, job costing, project costing, yeah. That's a big thing for our project managers. They want to know, where am I at on
Well,
my
that's
job?
all these inputs,
Where
labor,
we got spend, and it also helps our Rick out in estimating that he can look at job costing, how much did it cost to build this ride last year, and we're putting on it again. What was our true job cost on it versus our estimated amount when we first did it, and it helps him re-estimate.
So this is just one of many reports that we have. This is a job cost variance report. And what it lets you do is compare your planned costs to your actual costs. Okay, so as you go through and as you post different labor and material transactions, it'll give you whether you're over or under your planned costs. And compare it to different types of bombs, right? So your current bomb is basically what you think it will take for a particular module or item to take, and your estimate, your original estimate. Like, what did you think that this was going to be versus what have you actually accumulated so far? I ran that wide open, so it's going to take a little while here to view. There's a lot of open jobs. So it looks like this, right? So you've got, you can think, standard costing, what we consider standard. But here, you see actual values that would accumulate. And you sort of tell what is the percentage that you're complete for each job. Right? So here's your actual. So this is basically showing runtime. So this is your labor hours versus your current, which is what you're expecting on your plan. This is basically what you've adjusted for. Okay, and we see that we're at 100% now. Okay, by looking at the bottom line on this report, you can see you're 40% complete on this job. So this is just one of many of the reporting options that we have. This one happened to come to mind really quickly when you were asking.
That's something I'm talking about here, I'm looking at here. So we've got different ways that our engineers are drafting that into time right now. I think I told you we use Repcon for our time entry, even for our shop workers. What we'd like to see is the shop workers, whether they do a barcoding system or however we do it, we scan them in. They don't have to, right now they use punch cards when they write everything down. We want to try and get away from that so that it's automated. the engineers and the drafters all enter into Replicon. It's an online, I don't know if you guys know Replicon, it's a in-cloud system, and then what we do is we get an export from Replicon and import that into Timberline, and the cost codes and everything are in both. So when they enter their cost codes, it's basically the reflection of one another.
Replicon?
Replicon.
Huge
And, and we also, are looking at resource planning. We were looking at Replicon for resource planning, but we'd like to, if we can do the time tracking here, obviously incorporate resource planning would be the best.
Yeah, we showed some of that this morning. Do you want to show it again?
I think we can do, you guys want to see that now? I'd like to go in more depth in that, and I'd like actually Chris is back to go into that because he programs it.
Okay.
So he actually has a even more in-depth understanding of what exactly is in Replicon.
Wouldn't it be our intent, though, Donna, that if we can do it within an ERP system, like the engineering and drafting and all that stuff that we do in Replicon, to do it in that ERP system?
That's what I'm saying.
That would-
Rather than importing it?
Yeah, that would be our intention.
That's what I'm saying is, and I actually talked to Andy about this before, is actually the applications I'd like to see us get rid of is Replicon and FADFIL and FileMaker and Timberline and all of those M files. But we have to make sure that it's going to do what we need it to do.
When we talk about factory track, which we talked about downstairs in the, or
Yep.
across the road in the context of warehouse mobility, there's three interfaces for factory track. One is the warehouse mobility, the handheld with the scanner. The other one is the kiosk, where it's a touch screen and you're scanning a card or entering your employee ID and clocking in and clocking out. The third option is called timesheets. Okay, and that's more adjusted to an engineer or an office worker, where on the shop floor it's punch in, punch out, and the time in between is how much time goes to a job. Timesheets is more of that end of the day review and say, okay, I spent 2 hours on this job, I spent 3 hours on this one, and they put in their times and allocate it to projects based on their judgment, because often they're multitasking. It's hard to, just clock in and clock out. So there's that third option to enter time cards as well and assign your work that way. And all that flows into the system, obviously.
So we should get more that to know. Engineering that is
Okay.
a breakdown structure within Replicon, and they're basically assigning they're planning the work based on work breakdown structure by job. So the reason looking at some more functionality.
Okay.
So I don't know that there's nothing.
All right.
Can you set up different data rules for pay rules? It was in,
Yes.
because we have some that overtime is
Yep.
paid out, some is bank, all that kind of stuff.
So that project, we were just looking at there.
Oh, yeah.
So we could personalize it and then standardize it.
Yes.
So we do something called a PSR right now, which is a project status report. And it has basically cost to complete, hours, track, all that kind of stuff. And the issue is always getting the right data, and the biggest thing is getting cost to complete. But it seems like if all the data is in one space,
Right.
then we could personalize a report that could duplicate in here what the report looks like in Excel right now. Is that a reasonable kind of?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to take this to a project?
Yeah. We've been talking about the project structure, so it's probably a good idea as Sam pointed out, to look at an actual project that we have. So again, using the bike store analogy, here's a project for constructing a new bike store. Okay. We look and we see that there is a schedule variance here. We have whatever type of G&A rates that are available. We can have different types of projects, so these are all user defined. Right?
So fixed cost, time and material are all different options for billing it here.
And if you look over at the WIP relief tab, you can see that we're set for revenue recognition, so we only do a percentage of completion here for billing and invoicing. So revenue recognition here, we have different ways of calculating our milestone calculation. So this is the setup here for this. So you can do a percentage of the project cost, or a percentage of the milestone revenue, or the percentage of the milestone requirements. You can have different milestone calculation methods for different tasks as well. So these are just the defaults for the tasks that go underneath them. So that's how do you do the calculation. Right. And it's also, how do you want to do revenue recognition, based on the cost calculations, percentage over milestone cost, percentage over project revenue. And because this type of thing gets into sometimes some very specific, company-specific things, there's a custom algorithm here too. So that means that it's built in a hook so that we can do the calculations in the back end according to your own business rules.
To tell you anywhere where how much remaining that suppliers still need to invoice us for this job that's still outstanding. So I go back to purchasing issue appeal for $1 million. They sent us a 20% invoice, so there's $800,000. Is there anyone around here to tell the PO that, okay, you still have all this amount remaining from these suppliers that we still need to receive invoices? It's kind of similar to what I've been asking you before. Show me a grid now. Show me a grid, all the purchase orders issued for this one job, all the amounts, and what would be billed against, right?
Like unmade commitments? Or
Uninvoiced.
Uninvoiced commitments.
I don't really care about paid, not yet.
Well, so yet to be invoiced
Yeah,
from
to
the
be
vendor.
invoiced, right?
I know that we have that reporting by purchase order. I know that we can do it through the lines. It's just a matter of making sure that, Dan's got a note here.
You don't need to show this to me now, but that's going to be probably right up there in the top 5 things that I need to see. It's not just for me, right? It's for the PDs, right?
Yeah, of course.
I'm shooting in the dark here, but you might want to look at the project purchase order commitments report. Yeah, two down from where you are.
What has been received?
Right. Let's see if we see that for one.
That's quantity required, total cost remaining, PO requisition, PO date, due date. Let's scroll down and see if we get some meat on the bones here. Let's open it up and run it on all projects. And also add the filled on the line status so we can see.
A lot of $0 projects. I think a lot of.
Oh, there we go. So, okay, there's an eco study that we paid for on one of the projects prior to proceeding. I remember doing this for a demo. We can see the job, the PO requisition, and the PO date, and the due date. I guess what we're missing on there is a little bit of invoice information on whether it has or has not been invoiced.
So we issued a PO for 11 grand. Let's just say they want a 50% payment. So they're going to send me an invoice, right? I would like to see invoiced for 5,500, even if it's paid or not, and remaining. Right?
I'm scribbling. Okay.
And if you can work it in here, or perhaps another one, has it been received? So we're talking, supplier POs that we've issued.
Received is there.
$18 million.
Well, quantity order, quantity received. So one order, not received.
Okay, say if I'm buying 100 parts, and they're gonna ship me 20. Who's gonna say on there, 20?
If you received 20, yeah, I would say 20 received.
Yeah, almost there.
Yeah, closer than we were before.
Is that like per line item of the PO? We could have purchase orders that have 300 line items on one single PO.
Each line item would be linked to a particular project and
No, a particular item we're buying, like fasteners.
Yeah.
We'll buy, say, from our fastener supplier, we'll buy for a single project, 300 different fasteners, so 300 different part numbers, but we're not getting all 300 delivered at once. We're getting a portion of you know, say line 1, line 10, line 17 get delivered on a Monday, and we want to know, okay, and they didn't deliver the full quantity of that one.
This is per PO line, so
Per
it's
PO line,
by
okay.
item, right? It's doing it by item, so.
Okay, by item, that's what I asked you.
There are 50 items on the PO, you're gonna see 50.
50 lines, yeah.
And it's grouped by project too. So it's just looking at the project.
How currency?
Currency will be translated.
Yeah, this is all translated to the native currency, so to Canadian in your case, right? So it's taking all foreign currencies and making them the same, right? If you blend,
Canadian and US.
you have to customize the reports.
There are some vendors that we pay in US dollars. We don't
That's okay.
convert them over to Canadian, so how we would want to see what's the US dollar value, because it gets paid out of the US account.
When you're looking at stuff related to a customer, it's always in the currency that they do.
Not customer, vendor.
On the vendor side, same thing. When you're talking, you set up a currency at the vendor, right on the vendor profile. And then anytime you put out a PO, it's always by default in the currency of the vendor, right? So if it's a US vendor, you're typically you're buying in US dollars, right? When you do the receipt in from the context of the PO is in US dollars, but when it hits inventory, it's converting that dollars to Canadian funds from the inventory costing perspective.
Where's the rate come from?
Well, the rate we talked about earlier, it's manually entered, but we're working on a system to automatically grab those.
It can be automated, but
Those
other
are
lots,
methods.
manually updated as often as you want to.
So that report we just brought up,
Yeah,
so if it's set up within the vendor setup as a US supplier, that number that I'm gonna see is US dollars.
It would convert it to Canadian, because that's the you know, it looks across multiple projects. It's designed to look many, but you could write the report to do it in the currency of the sales.
Which currency do you want to see it? US?
Yeah.
Well, you can have,
And most of the screens that use foreign currency, like the big ones like that, you're looking at your AP posted transactions or your AR posted transactions. They have a currency translate button, so you're looking at it in one currency, but then you can translate it, you know, to the domestic currency. Yeah, yeah, and you have a buying and selling rate as well.
another report. Do you guys have a report that does AP by job, that's filterable, so by outstanding date range?
Oh, so like an
Basically,
aging
we're,
report?
Yeah.
but by job.
That's aging, right? So if you pull up one of your sample jobs there, show me a
Project name? When you say job?
Yes, sorry.
I think what we need to do is just have a look at, you know, like when we go, especially through implementation, you know, we have a list of your requirements of what exactly, you know, do you need for reports. And if there isn't a standard one out of the box, a lot of times this can be accomplished by creating a data view for it. Right? And the data views just go off of whatever you can see on the screen, and they allow you to go in and create your own. So we could do it for you, you could do it, but any of the data that exists on the screen is obviously all that does.
I think the things that we're bringing up have been our pain points recently, especially with the auditors. That's why
Right.
it's been a huge issue for us.
Yeah.
Trying to get that.
APAF for jobs. Really important.
Okay.
I just have a question about report customization, because I know you mentioned we can customize reports for whatever we need. Is that something we would have a functionality to do on our end, or do we have to go through like tech support to do that?
no, we'll teach you. It's pretty simple.
Okay.
Well, yeah. What we
It's
do
way,
is probably,
it's not like Crystal, it's way easier.
what we probably do is have a person that's actually, two people that actually has that ability. Usually that falls under IT, and then we're not creating a whole bunch of reports that have the same things, and get 10 reports that are called different things.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
That have the same functionality, right?
I think if there's something that generically you're using once a week, once a month, once a year, you set up, you can also set it up within your own view, so it gets kind of configured, and you can figure out how you like it, and then you save it.
Exactly.
And then you've got it to go back and refer to anytime that you want it. If you need to tweak it, you can do it.
Yeah, ad hoc reports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with some, you can do it yourself fully, and then with others, it will go through.
So we talked a little bit about cost codes a little earlier. So this is their total cost to your projects coming in here. You can look at your percent complete, and this is the breakdown of your cost codes. So these are all user definable. So what categories do you want to maintain your costs in for each project? Right? So you set up your cost codes, set in what your forecast cost is going to be, and usually it's based on your budget. And your forecast costs change as your project rolls along. So maybe there's an unforeseen PO that needs to be cut or invoice for an installer or something. And then that cost goes into your forecast cost because you're creating it on. Then your actual costs get updated as you're posting your labor transactions and issuing your resources to your jobs. Okay. So this is your overall cost code set. And then over here on percent complete details, you're looking at the same sort of view, except it's also breaking it down by period. Right, so you're seeing your costs that are incurred for the manufactured materials for period 11 of 2016.
Is there a limit to how many cost codes you can have?
Your cost codes always 2 items.
I think there's 4.
To me, the cost code there is really, it's almost like a category. Correctly. When you run statements, it's basically you can throw off the line.
Yep, that's right. Cost codes are, you decide ahead like what your categories that you really want to report.
How many cost codes do we have to configure? 25. 25 space.
I guess
Does that mean you're gonna have to have
well, again, if we talk about, perhaps the way things are versus the way things could be, I would challenge, at what level do you budget? At those minutiae of the 20 different engineering cost codes, are you going to put an estimated budget in each one of those? Or is it a larger grouping, right? Because the real benefit here of creating the different cost codes is allowing you to budget and forecast and collect actual costs in that particular bucket and analyze it, right? So, do you need 20? I don't know, right? Versus the way, maybe you do now. Do you need it if you go here? Again, I would ask those questions. What do we really
need? If we needed 20, we would need to find 20 letter combinations.
Or alphanumeric. It doesn't have to be letter.
So it could be numeric.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Which, the 4 digits is pretty good.
So this is maintaining your percent complete details at the project level. And obviously under the project you have your tasks. You can see like a view of that. You have all your tasks that go into it, and under each task there would be your resources, so all the items that go into it. So, and each one of these items can have its own bill of materials as well, right? And you can have a supporting job on it too. Okay, so this is again cost complete or complete details just on one project. Okay? If you were to step up a level, you could do a work breakdown structures. And see sort of the view of it, percentage complete for a whole bunch of different things. So purchased items, right? But then you go in and you say this is actually for a particular task on project 4, and you can combine multiple projects. I just have to find one here. Here's one. Okay. So this particular construction WBS that we have combines DX1, project DX1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it specifies particular tasks. In those projects. So you can look at this as a whole and see all the actual costs for each cost code that is in all those 4 projects. So what I'm trying to get at here is that there's multiple levels that you can have. So not only just a job attached to a resource in a project, but above that you can have a group of projects that you're reporting on at the same time.
When you refer to project in your guys' terminology, is it, I'm getting confused when you say that you can have this one job with multiple projects in it.
No, it's the other way around.
So the work breakdown structure is kind of the top level where you can have multiple projects or pieces of the project rolling up to the WBS. Okay,
What's a WDS?
Work breakdown structure.
WBS. The structure of a project, all the different phases of a project.
Well, it's slightly different than that. The structure is how it's built, right? A project is laid out linear with dates and times. WBS allows you to break it down differently, to say take all the engineering out of all of those different areas of the project in their little buckets and show it all together. Of all the little bits of engineering, let's look at that cost code as a whole to see where it is at one project, or look even at the higher level where he's saying look at the WBS across all projects to say, okay, engineering across all projects, this is our estimated, this is our budgeted, our forecast, and where we are actual, again, at a level above the project.
If you just want to see all the design for the project, doesn't matter which.
Right. Good example, Howard.
Here's, we spent $100,000 just on design.
Right.
2018.
Approximately.
This job.
Yeah, I just wanted to interpret, we're saying job and project as two different things, and in my mind, it's the same thing. A job is a project.
From our
Project
perspective,
number A, we're building a roller coaster for customer down in California. It's also job A to me. Like,
Gotcha.
I don't have multiple jobs within that project. I have multiple sequences or codes or work orders within that project type of thing. And that's how I look at breaking it down. I just wanted to get the terminology right, because I wasn't.
when we talk about the project, there's the work order or job that can feed that. We'll often use the terminology work order and job as interchangeable.
Yes, to me, they're different.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing. But yeah, okay, I get it now. I understand what you're saying.
So this kind of gives you an overview of it. So WBS is the work breakdown structure, and you can see that this one is over top of this one, right? So you can have a work breakdown structure that includes other work breakdown structures. And then within this, you can see that it's pointing to specific tasks and resources on two different projects. This is the first project, this is the second one. And then within each project structure, you have a header, and you can have multiple tasks, right? And then within that, you can have resources, and the resource can be tied to a job. That's a manufacturing job, right? And within that job, you can have operations. And that's sort of what we were at there. So the point is you can keep going up levels and consolidate.
Makes sense, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I just need the terminology.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't want to type anymore.
Two work orders.
Absolutely.
Project planning, you said this was, and I think we're doing project planning a bit more than engineering and program management. But you said this would interface with Microsoft Project. So this whole work breakdown structure, would it be done in project and brought in? Would it be done right in the software, or how would you?
It's up to you. Commonly, people are using Microsoft Project to communicate with customers, it's a good communication tool because they're consistent. But commonly, the tools that are built in the Cloud Suite are a lot more powerful and used internally. But you can still use Project if you want internally too.
If you use internally, can you export into a project format to be able to send that off to?
That's exactly what people do. Yes.
Okay, so we could do that.
Import, export, two-way.
All right. Okay, so we talked about how all the different modules interface with a final financial system and they end up in your general ledger. Then maybe we could talk about how you actually write financial statements inside of CSI. Do you have any questions on what we've covered so far?
The only thing I need to step out, and then, so, one thing I wanted to understand is, I'm not sure if this is the right time, the cash flow, how we tie into the container plan, and invoicing, how that works, how we can see, this is that full cash flow analysis point of view. You told me this morning that, with our, basically, for every PO that we write, we can put it on a schedule of deliveries, and then put in terms, and that will generate basically a payment structure, right? So we do that across the board for the entire project. And will we be able to see that payment structure? The program management will need to see it, the leadership would want to see it by project, see what project is remaining cash positive or not. Can we see that level of detail by project? Does that make sense?
Take your ellipsis. So what that does is bring over the different things. So if we wanted to see the revenue milestones associated with this particular job, you can click on that. There's one milestone stuff here. So there's not much meat on the bones in this particular item, but we only have one milestone set up for this particular project, active 6. Down at the bottom, it will have brought in all the different defaults from the project, and then there's a button there to calculate your cost revenue, because these are often based on actual transactions if you're doing cost plus, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Is there another project that might have a little more meat on the bones and all things?
There we go. Yeah, so this is more of the typical one that uses. So they've got the revenue milestones separated out. So we've got May, June, July. So they built these out ahead of time. And what Dan was talking about is when you use the calculate cost revenue, it's going to look as though you've done a cost roll up, and then your numbers fill in. So just to roll up from all the tasks, it uses this in calculating the revenue milestones. And then based on the way that you're recognizing revenue, I showed you the different options that you have for your percentage of completion, right? That's the amount that will get recognized in that period.
I don't think that's quite what we're asking for. To me, you have progress billing that you would enter in here as a forecast, whether it's actual, right, or forecasted out. You have purchase orders that have been issued that have specific delivery dates as well, right? Progress billing that you're invoicing us. And you have particular labor that you would forecast out as well. So I'll pause this beautiful grid saying for the rest of the project, by month, right? If you bill on this date, we're going to assume 60 days for whatever the default we're going to set up, that you're going to get that cash, right? We're going to pay all our suppliers in 60 days. So out pops out this grid for the rest of the job.
So I think for the invoicing side, I mean, those are your invoicing milestones that you would set up ahead of time. I get where you're getting at, so I think I understand. So you're talking about, you also have scheduled deliveries.
Yeah, if you go back to the milestone revenue, sorry to jump back and forth here, but you can see that where it did calculate, that was only the planned material and labor and all that stuff. So for the period that we've defined, it's just calculating the plan based on the estimates that we've put in there. So based on the timing and the dates of the project for start and stop date, it's calculating what it thinks the planned material cost will be, labor and others. Actual, which is on the right-hand side, has not been populated yet. And only
the planned material cost of $11,000. Okay. If we inputted, we plan $1,000 a month for the rest of the year. Like, how do I know that by just looking at that?
Well, we put it into a data view or a report. This is a single milestone entry, right? But if we got rid of the grid, can you just minimize the form, right? Yeah, we'd have to format this so it looks a little nicer. There's a bunch of extra fields there, right? And this is for one particular project. There's our costs. Again, put this to a data view, and we can analyze this and sum, you know, the revenue by month and total it. So I think
when you say data view, I'm going to see, okay, in March, April, May, June, for the rest of the year, I'm going to see $1,000 across the board.
yeah. So let's just run with this. Let's do a data view. Let's put this to data view. And group by? It's already there.
Find it out.
Or group by the end date or by the description, right, which will be the month. And then, yeah, do a total on the estimated material, labor. He doesn't say okay on the other one.
So we can create a little report on the fly. I think it's just a matter of like figuring out the information that you need to get at, you know, what screens are they on? I mean, anything that we have on the screen, we can send to a data view, right? We can also create data views, or you can create data views. It's quite an easy tool to use. And just grab whichever information from whichever screens you need. It's all data. So you're looking for like a projected cash flow for each project. Like what are your scheduled deliveries, right? Resource deliveries. So if you look at each resource on the project, there's a date there when it's due, right? And then you're looking to balance that out with what are your expected either revenues or inputs. I'm not sure. You know, so that you basically find out, you know, period by period, what's the net profitability for that period.
Well, that's
for
what I
each
need to
project.
see, right, whether you guys can show it to me today, or if it's on the portal, but I wanna see, okay, per month, right, I'm expecting these invoices based on someone's input of delivery dates. Right, I'm gonna get an invoice from Joe here for $1,000 every month, right? Show me all the suppliers in every month, what they're gonna bill. That is basically gonna drive our revenue recognition when we have an early value such as the supply. Right? Not so much when we pay. Cash flow is another thing, right? So we're gonna go into see both, right? But to me, they could easily be done, but I just need to see that it does exist, right? I mean, it can easily be done in Timberline, yet we're constantly fighting.
Right, we understand.
So I don't want you guys to be another Timberline.
You don't wanna do that again.
Wasting our time.
We
You're
understand.
wasting my time, right? If it's gonna be another Timberline, we need to move on.
Fair enough.
It's just a few minutes before Carl has to step out.
Oh,
Can we switch gears for just a minute and look at HR?
Okay, and also, just so you guys know, I don't know what you guys' schedule is, I have extended this room until 4 if we need to, or if you guys can stick around, whoever needs to stick around. Then we haven't even touched on estimating stuff yet either.
Can I just quickly finish up with financial statements? Or
Carbo, you have to go in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah,
Or we-
but it's like
sorry,
2:40,
yeah.
a little bit more, but don't go.
should I jump on that, or
Oh, sure.
should we switch over?
Your mark.
Straight up the top.
Okay.
Okay, maybe,
Oh,
I don't have one of those.
right.
I don't have a phone.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'm just gonna do a little housekeeping here and close some windows.
I apologize, guys, just
Oh, no, it's
schedule.
okay. We do from the beginning, that she had to be out.
Okay.
No, she's not. Yeah, we're taking it. Carrie was supposed to be on in the last minute, but she couldn't make it. Okay, so,
All right. This is the overview slide for HR. For employees, it tracks all of the things that we typically expect HR system to track. in addition to also tracking applicants. As we've all heard, if we're reading industry periodicals in the next 10 to 15 years, good health is going to be harder and harder to find. And often that means keeping track of some of those people that have applied, and either the timing or the skill set wasn't quite right, but being able to draw on those people again in a state year or as you grow and expand is more and more relevant. In fact, I was in a webinar 2 weeks ago that we actually have a legal obligation to keep the resumes and CVs of people that did not get the job. Should there ever be a complaint that they felt discriminated against, you need to keep all that information intact.
Well, what kinds of things do you want to see in HR?
So I'm hoping to see, is there employee self-service?
Right.
And kind of the employee onboarding process. So we use the ATS right now.
Yeah.
Like how does that copy over to the employee self-service portion? How it also speaks with the payroll portion of things.
Yeah.
To see. And then just in general, what's included in the HR module? Is there like a compensation module, or training development, risk management?
I'm going to open up a form and speak.
What was the last one you said?
Performance management. Setting
Yeah.
reviews.
So we have a window that's called Employee 360, and as the name implies, it's intended to allow you to do a 360-degree view of the employee and everything related to them. So again, you can create a new employee, and it uses a wizard to fill in some standard fields. But to just speak to the depth and breadth of the things that we're tracking, of course, with your typical contact information, independence, emergency contacts, employment eligibility. You know, again, a lot of this is related to U.S. more than Canadian requirements, but all the fields are there to track it. Again, spouse, status, everything that you know, there's the vacation hours paid, due, sick hours, hire dates, all of the different dates that are relevant, notes and documents. So just like when I showed downstairs and highlighted the fact that you can attach notes or documents to any record in the system, same goes with employees, right? So you can attach additional notes, documentation. So if you're doing your employee reviews on paper or whatnot, you want to scan them and put them in, you can do that. You know, but all these things are tracked. If we then go from training, here's where we can start to see awards, certificates, education, exams, skills, right? Training courses, the dates they completed, work experience, moving on through to actual work. So the execution of work and what happens there. Injuries. I always like to dig into this one because it's one screen that just about everybody understands. When there's an accident, there's a bunch of detail that needs to be collected and reported through the WCB. Often it's not recorded electronically or able to be quantified. I did see the big sign on the front of your building, so many days, you know, with the safety metrics. This allows you to start to do proper reporting on those if you so choose.
No, but I'm making a note of showing memos.
Memos, again, just different things going on. Employment, performance reviews, right, and adding to their position. So if they've moved on or upward in the company, the different roles that they've held and for what periods of time. Property, if you give out safety glasses, laptops, all that kind of stuff, you know, if somebody moves on, you have to make sure that you get all that stuff back, or hopefully you do. And first, knowing that it's out is the first step to getting it back, right? And work history. Okay. Now we start to step into pay. So at this point, I have to say that Infor does sell a payroll module. However, we don't sell it because it doesn't support Canadian payroll. Doesn't make sense. So what we do is we integrate with the typical suspects: Ceridian, ADP, CanPay, Payworks, and there's probably a few more, but those are the ones I see most often. So everything up until the processing of payroll, the paying of checks, happens in our system. So the supervisor approvals, time off accruement, all that sort of stuff happens in here. And then when the payroll processor goes in and makes sure that all of the time is approved and everybody's done their approvals, right? If you don't, you can call up the supervisor and say, got to do your approvals, I can't process payroll. But once that's ready, you're basically hitting an export button, and that's generating the file for Ceridian, as an example. That Ceridian then just basically digests, consumes, it's their format, and they do the payroll process.
What are you using now?
We actually use Timberline. We
Timberline has its own account?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Payroll.
Payroll.
This does not.
We could, we'd have to study the payroll module, right? We just have to manage the rules.
Commonly, companies are using third party, whether it's in-house or using it as a service. And many of these packages like ADP, you can have it in-house or let them do it. It's up to you.
Well, our table's done in-house, so.
Right. We understand.
Yeah. We use Timberline. Yeah, and what we do is we export that out to our bank. Yeah. Up here, let me go back and they actually have,
that's really hard to,
I'm sorry. They use Ceridian back.
back to you.
Yeah, that all plays into the payroll module. That's something that the payroll service provider would typically provide, like the Ceridian meeting.
Back there.
Is that something that's sacred that you wouldn't want to change, or be willing to look at evaluating the? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if we explain to you and can show you other companies that have seen the
We
ROI on doing a service as opposed to.
It doesn't matter. We can make sure, we can discuss alternates in having a payroll system in house.
And why don't you have a payroll system?
Payroll system we have is a U.S. payroll, so it's American software. So normally we integrate to Ceridian or ADP or something like that.
Can we finish going through the pay part? I think there are a few more at the bottom for salary, year-to-date earnings.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you can certainly put those in, and it changes over time depending on what role you currently has, right? All of this plays in to what happens on the payroll side, right? Whether it happens internally or whether it's being exported, all of this information is gathered and prepared and then sent to the payroll processor.
Are we able to enter stuff today for salary increases that are going to happen 1 month from now, 2 months from now?
Yeah. Yeah, so you just, again, insert a new row here, right? Put in the amount, put in the date to which that's going to start, right? It's going to start on May 1st, right? And we're going to increase the rate to 25, right? Reason, inflation adjustment. Right, and then, all the different pieces, and then, right? So now I've essentially coordinated a raise for this guy on May 1st, and the system would take that and process it based on that.
I don't think we've gone through that yet. Yeah, maybe can we go through the rest and then start on two?
So benefits, of course, that's just calculating different pieces of benefits, insurance, temporary deductions.
Does it have the function of speaking with the benefits provider? If we use Desjardins, will it speak with their system?
It could. Again, for those things, you need to use the API. And the API is that tool that allows you to integrate with external systems, whether it's your banking for exchange rates or whether it's an external system to bring that sort of information in. We can absolutely integrate with your insurance provider. Okay? And then personal time off. Right? So the ability to request time off, maybe have some time off history in this particular case, sick leave details, and vacation details. Letters from residential case law, those sorts of things. Now, this is just the back end again, customer 360 to give us that overall view of the customer. If we want to talk about employee self-service, Steve, you're in a browser here, but I don't see favorites. But I don't think I have that on the self-serve portal.
Oh, you're not in the demo image.
I'm running it through. Yeah, that's what I was sure about. Switch back to yours.
Harry mentioned the onboarding, so I guess as part of that, if someone got hired, say, is there that function where and all the steps they would need to complete to get set up for self-service?
That would take a workflow or an event handler. So the event handlers that we showed downstairs is like a Visio flow chart, right? You basically set up your roles to say when an event happens, like a new employee record is created, then we have these certain steps that we have to follow. Send out this welcome email to the employee with links to all of the staff policies, right? Maybe it also sends a general email to the staff to welcome that person to the group, that sort of thing. And then any other steps that are required, click here to create your login or update your password, right? Because a default, user ID has been created. All of those things can happen through the event handler.
Okay, so we could set up this all immediately after someone's
See
hired.
what happened here? I didn't close it. Oh, there it is. Through Chrome there. Here. Okay. We're gonna probably have to jump over to here to show self-serve. Do we have the converter to go from this plug to the?
Yep, they're over there in the middle. There's mini or standard, which would be.
I don't think that one will.
What?
There's no way. Yes, it is plugged in.
That one is one plugged in. Okay.
If we're moving what,
You're gonna lose your
part of
go-to
the
meeting.
go-to meeting, yeah.
Oh. Yes, we will.
Stop the recording.
Unless you.
Just copy the URL off of your one machine onto the other. You're just forgetting the URL, the favorite?
No, I don't
go-to.
have access. He's in a different environment than me, so he doesn't have access to the same.
Oh, okay.
Right, so
Thing.
just make sure you're on the go-to meeting and then pass you the presentation.
Yeah.
Change the presenter.
Can you invite me to the go-to meeting?
Yeah, I have to step out. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow morning, right? 10 o'clock. I try to spend 6 hours each of the days. I got enough of the steps. Are we gonna have a get together later?
Are you around?
Yeah, no, not today, tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I'll set something up.
They
I'll set something up so the
gather
three
and
of us can
talk.
talk. Yeah.
But
Oh, that's it. My go-to meeting is broken. If I had this error, I couldn't get go-to meeting to start on my PC.
Can you restart your computer?
I haven't done that. I know that's probably the step one to troubleshooting.
That's the first thing you do.
Turn it off and on again.
Especially if you had updates over.
Next to the image, that would be probably the fastest.
You guys want a coffee or drink or anything while reading? Are you guys okay to stick around longer than 3 o'clock, or do you guys have to be out of here?
I'm fine so far.
Fine? Okay. So, Rick at the end, he's going to,
Yeah,
I'll have lots of questions, I'm sure.
a coffee meeting.
Coffee? In here? Black?
Global 18 and 418.
People in that room.
It's in for, oh, not a zero. Why?
And did you say what?
Yes, please.
And then we'll do like a tentative.
What's your back end? Is it SQL or what? It is SQL.
All right, employee self-service. I'm not logged in as an employee.
London, I say, I thought it was.
Yeah. Here, I need to log in as one of these people. Admin. Which usually gives me all the freedom I need to do everything I want, but sometimes I have to go in as one of these people.
You're not you don't want to do database stuff right now. Although when I go in, I think I'm invalid user password.
Would it be possible perhaps to add the rest of the HR portion to the end of another session or something?
Or we could do it remote if you wanted, or I can come back
Whatever
over and just make a ridge.
We have, well, I can, tomorrow will probably be longer, but I can, you guys have a meeting after 12? I can't, I have a meeting.
Okay. I don't mind.
What time's yours today?
I am thinking until 4.
Well, we're here
We'll
at
figure
4. When we come back.
Okay, I can try to come back after I'm here. So here we pick up.
Sure.
I'll let you know. I'll send you an email and.
Great, okay, thank you.
Tomorrow is, manufacturing and, engineering, project management, and okay, I'll send it to you too then. Engineering, project management, and document control. Do I have it there tomorrow? I have, those are all combined. So like these ones are combined. Tomorrow I have Paul, Ritter, Curtis, Eva, David Lowe. Darren's not in here because Darren is a stakeholder, not the person that was part in the requirements gathering. So.
Have a good afternoon. Oh, so we've tried to get through HR and we've pulled the plug on that until we can reschedule. So we have it's too late for employee self-service anyway. So basically we've got IT to cover, correct?
Nope, estimating.
Estimating, sorry.
Estimating IT can go at the end.
Okay.
Rick will probably have lots of questions. He's very thorough.
Yeah.
He's still awake.
How do you do estimating now, Rick?
Start on the how.
What do you use?
An Excel, right?
Yeah, I generally use
Or
Excel if it's not designed, because I'll have to do a design, so the Excel is up from scratch. Yeah, and then when I'm doing a first principle estimate, I can use the FAT Troll program that I set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, I had to get into Factual 8.1 yesterday. In a lifetime since we've got to get into that one. We currently have 3 different Factuals. I have to maintain 3 Factuals.
See, what I've
They
done
are-
is yeah,
You lost your old data.
No, we have the old data, but they went from Fox Pro to a Fox Pro and SQL solution to a SQL solution, and they didn't build in migration. No, tell me about it.
Estimating. So, do you use a CRM, or is that relevant, or do you just want to stick to the collection of costs and markups and that
so
sort of?
in regards to using the spreadsheet, Rick, how are you estimating in buckets, or how detailed is your estimate? They can be very detailed. As detailed as I want to make them. Has Donna showed you any of my comments, my wish list?
Yes.
Yes, they have all the requirements
Worksheet?
gathering documents.
Okay,
What they did was we sent them the requirements gathering that we did.
excellent.
And what we want to do is we don't want to shoehorn their software into our requirements. We want to,
See,
I mean, the opposite.
I set up basically we generated a template for final costs. And then depending on the job, the time, and the accuracy that I want to go into, we add as much detail as we can. Yeah. And every project is tailor-made. There's no 2 estimates are the same. And then also for rides, I created a master template. Everything you can think of on a ride, and I put in data, and it spills out an estimate that I've written or linked data to it. So generally, we go into a lot of detail. Yeah.
Do you go in and use Salesforce at all, Rick?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, that's
Call the question.
So,
Would be no.
to be honest with you, I want to be careful here. I'm not happy with a lot of the software we have and information. It's garbage in, garbage out. I can't trust it. I can say this, that data for accounting, data for hours, shop hours, engineering hours, they're as good as the input. And if people, managers, aren't compelled to enter everything, it's useless to me. And I find jobs, there's a lot of missing information, either from an accounting, purchasing point of view, shop labor that's not accurate, engineering hours that are not accurate. So what I'm looking for is a system that as soon as you set up a new project, there's mandatory fixed info that must be entered.
Okay.
And locked in, and then you'll get a true budget. You'll get a true comparison as what's left. Right now, there's no discipline amongst the different project managers. They're not all entering info that we give them. So as a result, Howie will get reports that aren't correct on cash flow. Project managers can't properly say what's left to do on a project. And like I say, I'm looking for a disciplined system where you have to enter some information. It's got to be fixed. Okay? If you have that, we'll be more successful, and then it'll all work better for everybody. But as long as you're playing with it and spinning it, that's the key word, spinning.
Right.
I'm not happy at all. Could you give me an example of these mandatory data you want to be fixed?
Donna's got that.
Okay.
I'm looking at the estimating sheet right here. Is it listed somewhere here?
Yeah.
So pricing supplied to customer locations, I mean, that's not it.
For example, we have sheets, jobs entered, and it's supposed to have all the budget. And I look in there, totally wrong, either incomplete or totally wrong. Now, if you have a system, when they set it up, you must fill in the proper stuff. And
But didn't the budget come from you?
it generally starts with us, yeah. But if it's not properly entered,
Or you mean re-entered, is that what you?
yeah. I mean, our budget could link to this. Yeah, because of the different cells, labor, materials, buyouts, subouts, freight. It could, yeah. Why I'm emphasizing this is because one of our biggest problems is the information available on all the different tools is not good because people are not disciplined.
I think one of the,
So,
you and I have talked about, and I think this might help them, is that Rick uses a lot of historical data from previous jobs to help estimate future jobs.
Yeah.
If the data's not correct in a job we did last year,
Right.
he's gonna go and pull that, the job costing and the purchased amounts and the purchase orders that don't have dollars. He just, like, talking to me before this meeting started today, I went and looked at a job and the purchase order had no dollar amounts in it. So how do I price out future job if I need that same order?
Yeah, another thing. You take a person, say in engineering. He knows what he's working on. He's not working on 5 calculations at once. He's got to code it properly. And getting back to codes, we could get it down to 10 basic codes that'll count. And if he doesn't put a code on, I looked at one job, 47% of 30,000 hours was non-coded. I call bullshit.
Oh, my.
Yes, you guys, when the engineer enters their time
Yes.
into whatever system to come here,
Yes.
is there a way to tell the engineer, okay, you can only pick, we know what job you're working on, you can only pick these 5, you guys call them
Activities?
cost codes, right, that's it.
Yeah, see, the thing is, it's a no-brainer. Again, in the shop, the guy's working on it. He can only work on one project at a time.
Right.
And if he's working on it for 15 minutes or half an hour, if you have a system where it can't be manipulated, if it's written in pencil on a time card, then there's room for poor ethics, of course. And that happens. But if the worker goes click, and it goes into the system, you can't manipulate it, of course. And, we're talking ethics here, but I can prove it. And the reason I'm bringing it up to outsiders
Well, 47% is, that's
because
amazing.
this is very critical that everybody has to understand. To make this successful, we have to be accurate and ethical. And I'm not being naive when I say that. I'm saying it will help everybody.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I go into many jobs, and there's no pricing on the purchase orders. What's wrong? Where's the discipline?
No pricing on the purchase orders that went to the vendor?
Yep.
I've heard of that. Symptom I've seen in certain
I could easily go out and pull
Because we want to time material.
Yeah, you don't know the price when you cut the
When the
PO.
invoice comes in, yeah, the PO is supposed to get updated, right, we're all human, and it's gonna get missed.
Well, it happens too much.
Yeah.
So,
The reason, again, I have to disclose this because I'm getting a lot of inaccurate information.
Yeah.
And I would say most of the projects, the big ones that I look, like $30-40 million, I'm lucky if it's 80% accurate. Yeah, and I can prove that. Yeah, I go down and I see where we did an identical job,
and the hours for the same pieces are 20, 30, 40, 50% higher. There's something wrong. Then I see codes that don't exist. So again, I have to emphasize, this needs to be a disciplined system that you have to enter information that's locked in. Only certain people would be allowed to change it.
That's easily controlled with security.
And if you don't do that, then it's no value to me.
Yeah.
So part of the reason that we're going down this road is because we know the processes are not being followed that we have in place. So we need to make sure that the system we put in, the processes have to be followed. As you say, these are the fields that must be filled up for it to go any further than this. So that is what we know. So we know that there's a huge process issue. But part of us going with this is there's new leadership that actually is very on board with changing the processes and forcing that throughout the employee. And that is a must. It absolutely has to happen. And so those aren't even system issues per se. Like, they're not even system issues as per for what we have. What it is it's a process issue.
These reports are showing, they're good. As you mentioned, they can be changed to suit our needs. But they're nice and easy to read. I could see it's user-friendly. But like I say, I'm trying to impress that in the beginning, you have to have pertinent data, of course, and it's got to be locked in, of course. So then it will help the project manager in his forecast. I've gone into several projects recently, and I saw 3 different forecasts for the same project during the same month. Yeah.
How far off?
Very off.
Okay, so
that's why, again, I think I've
we
got the
understand.
point across.
We understand.
Yeah.
So in regards to your estimates, it sounds like you're sometimes copying from history, even though you don't believe the historical information is accurate.
Oh, I use it as a guide.
As a
check.
Sure, okay. Now, how detailed are those? Are you going right down to nuts and bolts, or?
No. For example, I can look at a switch. I want to know that it was 1,200 hours. To make it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't care about the profit well because I'll take care of that. Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I'm
A cursory check to make sure that I'm not $1 million out. For example, there's an expensive switch that we made, and I want to make sure that I'm within $1 million of that item, you know. It's a quick check. I come out with $3 million. I want proof that the last one took. If it's only $1 million, something's wrong, and I can check into it. Okay. Yeah.
So a few things I think we have to get to where you want to go. On the controls, to make things required and not required, that's really easy because this is as much a development platform as it is, an out-of-the-box tool. We can go and decide, and say this contract here as an example, it's not required out of the box, but we could determine that, that contract, that's a very important field for us, and we require it to be filled in immediately. We cannot save this record unless we have the contract number. Over here, under behavior, where is the required? The required when? There's another one.
Speaking of appearance, I see reports where we've had change orders and so much value. I look at them and they're difficult to read. So
The current reports,
the current reports, and I look at a column and the wording will even be wrong. So something more formal like this, that every project has the same consistency.
Sure.
Then any of us, when we need to read it, can understand it.
So I just made that field mandatory. It's got the little red dot beside it.
Excellent.
So it was that easy, right? It took me 2 seconds to make that field mandatory. Now, in the case like we talked about, the PO lines at 0.
I hate to ask, Dan, which one is the little red dot? I can tell you one.
Here, right here, the little dot.
Okay.
So that dot shows beside every field that's required.
Thank you.
That
I'm sorry.
little requirement. So I made that field mandatory. Now, if in the case like the PO line being 0, we could write an event handler on that, because you do need to put in the PO at zero, or at least a placeholder value until you actually find out what they're going to charge you, right? So it could go in at zero, but if that PO was closed at $0, it immediately fires an email to the buyer to say, update that PO line. And if the buyer leaves it at zero, after 3 days, it escalates it to the purchasing manager.
Or we could stop the PO from being submitted with $0.
Because I've easily looked at dozens of POs and I found major orders that had no price.
We can set up and police the system so the disciplines are there.
Excellent.
However, you still have the human issue.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
I don't expect perfection, but I'm happy in the high 90s.
We can set up the discipline
I
in
get it.
the system so it will not allow it. We can lock it down as tight as you want.
Yeah.
However, sometimes you don't want it to be locked down quite that tight.
It definitely is a.
What I'm trying to force.
It is.
I'm trying to
It's
force-
change management and,
Yep.
yeah, we understand.
I've worked in discipline systems all my life, and it was successful.
Right.
And,
We can lock it down as tight as you want.
and what I'm after is consistency for everybody.
And if the employees are not learning, maybe you do have to lock it down that tight.
Yes, that's why. Yeah, they're not.
You guys can do the same thing on the PO side,
Mhm.
Everywhere.
where you need that red button.
Everywhere.
Is it a drop-down menu, for example, the cost code?
It can be,
Um,
absolutely.
We would
So let me go back
we would
there.
definitely-
sequence numbers?
A good example the other day, I was looking at a project,
These are-
and they had a budget in there of 5,000 hours. I gave them 140,000 hours. What happened to the balance? So, you might want a box where certain people in certain departments must accept those little red stars.
That's fine.
Sign off.
That'll be how we set up the program.
Yeah,
How
that's
we
gonna be
set up
part of
the
the
tolerances
implementation,
and all
Rick,
that
which
kind of
is-
stuff.
It's gonna take a lot of meetings and a
Again,
lot
I'm
of
not, no, I realize that. I'm not trying to go into details. I'm trying to stress, we have a problem. And this is the starting point.
We can lock it right down so everybody doesn't have any flexibility at all.
Yep.
Or we can leave it so it's not so strict on certain tasks or skill sets or individuals.
That'll be,
But that's,
that'll be something we'll do as per the, as
Right.
we implement and as we set it up and we go over what should be
So-
editable by people, what
Correct.
shouldn't be, that kind
Like
of
I
stuff.
say,
That's
I
the configuration.
explained that concern, so that's addressed.
we completely understand, Rick.
Can you show, Rick, the estimating side of it and maybe go through some stuff?
That's sort of where I want to take us.
Sure.
Absolutely. I'm in an estimate project right now. Okay, so there's projects and estimate projects. Projects are the ones that we've won, and the estimates are where we're just making up numbers and putting things in and wheeling and dealing. You can assign an estimate project to a lead or an opportunity. So when we talk about sales funnels and that kind of thing, you can search add that. We talk about WIP. Again, this for the most part is default and your WIP methods. Steve showed a little bit about this as far as he's setting up, and likely this can be a template too, a default to your typical project. You don't need to set this every time, right? Once we get past the setup and configuration, then we get into the tasks of the project or of the estimate. And these are the major elements that are going on here. Just let me, let me just open this up, and I'm also going to show you how I'm going to clean this up, because you can see there's a bunch of repetitive stuff here that I don't want to see in my grid. So I'm just going to edit my columns, and honestly, this is something that I would have normally done, but this is a brand new image. So I'm just going to pull everything out right up until the task name, so it makes it real easy to look at.
So basically, Rick, you're defining what you see, or what the entire company sees.
There. So now I can see my steps, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, survey site, excavate, construction, test. Okay? So within each one of these areas, so let's go down to construction, it's usually a pretty busy one. Is there a general contact for that step specific? So you can have a different contact for every step. There's percent complete, and again, we're doing an estimate, so there's nothing in there but we are putting in forecast dollars, right? These can be manually entered in dartboard, or you can use underlying data to calculate up to get to those costs.
Or copy from history.
Yeah, you can have a template to bring these in, absolutely. And there's
It
projects.
gives you a baseline.
As we look through these, again, there's WIP related to those. The costs today on construction, obviously there's no cost so far. Here's where we can start to see the Microsoft project integration. So if you wanted to present a project of the timeline and Gantt the project out, you could.
Are you laughing?
Because at the bid stage, you tell the customer what they want to hear.
True, but this is gonna tell you how much you're lying anyways.
We don't get into that.
That's how long can that be?
Sorry, the what? This one here, the actual code?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess and say 4 or 5. It is a small code field. It's not a long one.
So if we had 30 different tasks per job,
Yes.
this is where it would divide it.
Yeah. There's a level again below this, but I would recommend that this is where you'd probably do it. Okay. Now again, here's the MS project. I did run this. So over here in project, I now have this project laid out here. I could move these bars around as far as timing goes. And then in the background, in the add-ins, it can automatically do the sync out. So you can make your adjustments on timeline and Gantt, and then it will sync back to the ERP, the changes that you've made. Okay, I won't close that out. Again, defining what resources are on that Microsoft project line, so who's assigned there, and then WBS related to that. So again, I had mentioned over here that you can just manually enter these forecast numbers for the accumulation of cost. You can also look at resources within that particular activity, and here are the resources that are going into this course. Again, there are some repetitive columns here that I typically like to pull out. There. Now, it's over here, and we can see, and there's still a couple fields that I should have brought over. I'll just drag this over like this now. These are the resources that are going in to the construction. So again, we've got a cinder block. I can see that it's a material, and we're going to get it to come from inventory. How many of those cinder blocks do we need, and how much do they cost? So it's bringing in the cost from our inventory numbers, however we've decided to cost that particular item. So it's bringing that in. From a percent complete, again, this is purchased parts, right? So we've assigned it that particular cost code. We've forecast $100 based on the unit price. And that forecast rolls up through the levels. If we went down to something like I-beam here, this is not a purchased part, this is a manufactured material. So it's coming from a job, right? So the job would be produced to generate this I-beam support. So when we talk about the different pieces of a roller coaster, right, that need to be built to a job, they're essentially like this I-beam support. There's going to be a job here, it's an estimate job, that you can go out and either do the CAD integration, take the CAD drawing and dump it in for your bill of material and calculations, or build it on the fly, or you can have your template jobs to use and throw in there. But that's where we're going to get it. If I wanted to create the job for this estimate right here, right now, you can see there's no estimate job there. I can just post source, and it's going to do a cross-reference between the estimate project and an estimate job. So it's just doing its thing in the background. It's created that job. And now when I click on source again, it's going to take me there. Oh, but it should still create an estimate job instead of work. It's from an estimate project to estimate job. security or something isn't allowing that to happen, but ultimately that should just create the estimate job to which we can start going in and adding costs or evaluating the costs that are there. Okay? So that's, again, on the project, you can have a ton of resources, a mix of things that are either coming from jobs, inventory, purchase order, or requisition. You're shaking your head. Would you not?
Yeah, no, that's not real life data. That's not how it works. It's, a lot of that, whether it comes from inventory or not,
Is it relevant?
is irrelevant.
Okay.
When we're estimating,
Probably nothing comes from inventory on a
I
project.
have about 150 different summary lines. Each one of them is backed up. And it goes from the engineering, the drawing, the purchasing allowance, project management, then the manufactured parts, which could be a major list, a switch, a track, and so on. Then the testing, set up the facilities. If we need another building, I have to put in all those costs. Or if we have to test and build a structure and order scaffolding and all that, I have to go into all those details. Then we get right down how we're going to ship it and all the packaging and that. So there's a lot of detail. Probably.
But if we go to site survey,
Well, would perceive us doing testing, right?
Yeah, but there's a general order of things. I write a procedure, how we're going to make something, and I estimate, like, in a general way, the procedure.
how you're going to make it, the procedure is how
Yep.
you make it? Okay.
Yep. And, I mean,
This is gonna be difficult for you to use, right?
yeah, I'm looking more at value. At the end of the day, you want one sheet, material, buyouts, subouts, testing, machining, and special and electrical. That's all you need.
Oh, your cost categories.
Just your cost categories. Then you use that to budget, because there's a number of reasons for that. There's more than one way to build something. What I'm giving them is a budget. At the end of the day, it's all about dollars. How they make it's their choice. But the thing is, it's very important that at all times, based on actuals, that you know how many dollars are left in your budget. That's the guide to the project manager. So from an estimating point of view, you need one sheet for your report. Our estimates, I generally will give the project manager a summary broken into cost code, of all the major items. And then he has his budget. But I think you would only need one sheet, and that would help people.
Well, if we go up here to the estimate project and just did the, where did we go?
And also my estimates can be, I use a workbook because there's so many different categories. Like I'm doing a telescope right now, and there's probably 20 different categories, and each one of them has several hundred lines. And like a good example, the field, the erection on the mountain, I've gone into every possible detail you can. All the things you have to do, and that just goes on and on and on. Making parts, hundreds of lines. So by the time I finish, there can be thousands of lines that I've had to generate to suit that project. And then calculations, side calcs, everything. So
But summarized on one sheet.
summarized on one sheet, yeah.
Okay.
And that summary could be linked to this.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't go down to the resource level like I did to show jobs and such like that, I could very easily just go in and, forecast
See,
12 hours or 200 hours or whatever it
what
is.
is the most important? See, again, the key word is value, the information. What is most important? Engineering has 30,000 hours for that project. On a weekly basis, you see what's left.
Right.
And
Burned up.
this will trigger people to say, look, I can't afford to spend 2 weeks on a design of a bearing. I've got to do that in 4 to 8 hours. That kind of thing will help the management. It'll help people set goals. You can design forever. The new mousetrap thinking. So what is most important is how are they doing to the total? And we can break it down further into cost codes. Even though there may be a lot of cost codes in engineering, most of them aren't of any value. We want to see a cost code for main piece of equipment. That's all. So maybe 10. That's it. That's all you need. But the whole idea is to manage the project from day one through the design and the purchasing and the manufacturing. And the most important is there's your budget in hours and in the end dollars. What is left? Like I've ran a lot of projects in my life, and every time I bought something, I was keeping a record of what's left. So in case sometimes there are things you missed or things are more expensive, you want to find a way to mitigate the loss. So that's the kind of thing. And to give them global totals to always aim for, then they'll know how they're doing. Details, where it comes from inventory, it's not important.
So in this, Rick, I know you have your big template for Excel that's really your supporting tool right now for your estimating.
Yeah.
Would you still be able to use that tool still, and then if we would sort of roll up the summaries into the estimates in the system, and then attach your Excel file as a document to support where those numbers were substantiated from, right?
By all means, like, we're flexible. Like, I'm willing to work to any system. If it works for everybody, great. All I'm saying is that to keep it simple, because that's all they need. They don't need to know all the details.
When you say they, you're talking about staff or customers?
Staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could have one line in here that was your total engineering hours, and your estimate could break down into much more detail.
Sometimes I'll do an engineering estimate, and I'll do it in several hundred lines. I'll work out all the things they have to do, calculate meetings, iterations.
So you don't want that 100 lines in here?
No.
Okay.
No.
Then yeah, we would just do like
the most important thing is the end total.
That's what you're saying.
Thank you.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
So if this estimate was awarded the job, can this estimate be uploaded to start with the project management and job costs? Is that right?
Copy the estimate to an actual project.
Yeah. So if Rick had a template, say Rick's spreadsheet, and you guys had a template where the key numbers that Rick needs to fill into this Excel could be uploaded.
Right.
Like that's what Megan was talking about.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it would create the project.
Create the project and AP and purchasing.
I have a 1-minute question.
See,
Yes.
It's all in there.
yeah, our current summary,
Yes. AFC, EFTs, yes.
with our
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
our current summary, it was developed over the last 20 years. I worked here in 1996 the first time, and then came back in 2002. 1996, we were using the original form, but it's followed the same thing because it works. And though we've improved it, it works. But that is strictly a tool for the estimator, but that information could be put on your format.
Yeah, or whatever that format looks like, you could create another screen that
Yeah,
actually mimics
yeah,
that.
so that
Link
it helps the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
So part of what we learned this morning that's interesting, because we had a demo this morning to different groups, was that there's personalization and then there's customization.
And what I'm,
Sorry.
sorry for interrupting. Personalization is what's killing us right now.
So I'm going to
Too
disagree with
many
you
people,
for 1
this
second.
is, oh, sorry.
No, so part of what personalization means in this system is that we adjust, modify, make the changes system-wide for user rights and what reporting we want and all that. So previously in an ERP implementation where we would pay for every change,
Right.
Personalization means it's included in the cost of changes of our implementation. Customization is something we pay for outside of it. So when they're talking about generating a form or something in here that supports your efforts from estimating and has it roll in so that that can roll into a project and stuff, that would be considered personalization. So that's something that we can work with you directly to. You have your form, we set up the personalization that is the numbers that you enter for that project data that would really kick us off, and that when we're awarded the contract, that would roll into the engineering hours, and we can personalize that piece of it, that it standardizes it for our company, rather than it being everybody gets to do their own thing.
Yeah.
You can also change your own view that you can see data in the way you want, but we can lock down what can be entered
Yeah.
or changed or edited and who has those privileges.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so I think
very important.
for your comfort level, we can set it to the granularity of a module who can read, write, change, only view, but we can also change to the granularity of the
See, what
field.
I'm trying to prevent, I'm looking for the right words. It's okay for a project manager to reset the value of a project. That's acceptable. Let's
The
have
forecast, you mean?
Well, for example, say I estimate $10 million for a project. It's okay for a project manager to say, our budget is $8 million. We'll strive, we'll try harder to make it $8 million. Because if you give everybody the $10 million and they're doing well, they won't try as hard. Sometimes there's reasons, or maybe another project's not doing well, so we want to try harder on this to make up. That's business, that's okay. It's okay, but what's most important is we have the original, that what's entered here from the start of the project is the budget that we're trying to meet or beat. It doesn't have to be the original estimate. It's the budget for the project. And in most cases, it's the same price. But what I'm trying to prevent is, in my opinion, we have a weakness of not proper managing our costs in every department because time constraints, laziness, inexperience, whatever. This could be a guide with the little stars or asterisks. This isn't about slapping hands. This is about helping people enter data better, and it doesn't take longer. And it will, in the end, it will benefit everybody, especially when 3 and 4 years from now, I can go into a project and I could trust some of the figures. Now I'm finding that I go into them and so much info is being left off, and it's not even right. And you say, wait a minute, we're big boys here, big girls.
You question why you're even copying it.
Yeah. So I emphasize to Megan and Donna that if we have management supporting a discipline system, discipline that you must have key information information in there. It'll help everybody. And it certainly will make us appreciate this. So I'm saying I'm confident that it will benefit everybody. It'll force people to work to budgets. They'll try harder. The information, especially from accounting and cash flow, it's very important that they have proper feedback. I've known several stories where a project manager hastily will give the wrong amount of value that's remaining on a project. It's not even, it could be out $10 million. And this gives Howie and upper management the wrong idea of what's happening. And, you know, my partner and I, we will catch things and say, no, it's worse than you think, or it's better than you think. But again, having that disciplined system, it will benefit everybody. Trust me, it'll help a lot. So I'm all supportive of all this.
I think you see like
Just keep it simple.
The budget forecast and actual, you know, the cost to complete is the forecast less actual, right? The budget is typically the number as quoted, right? And that typically doesn't change. The forecast, you know, the production manager or the person that's really doing the work might adjust the forecast based on reality.
Sure.
Right? But that's the measure of, you know, budget versus what we think it's going to take, right? When we get that dose to reality, and then our actuals and our cost to complete.
Excellent. That's really good. Looking at that right away, you get the whole picture. Today, if I go into something, it takes a long time to fish out information. And again, that's why I'm so aware of all the errors. When I say errors, I'm being polite. That give us a false story. And I'm sure that in the end, it will be a lot more accurate on a project. Again, people are human, but a few percent for errors, that's adequate, but not 10, 20% out. And that's what I'm seeing now.
Well, yeah, you should be able to track those things and at least identify them, right? Take the big offenders
In
and
the high 90s, it'll be acceptable.
So let's go through the rest of the estimating and see what else they have for us as far as tools. There will be lots of personalization that we can do company-wide.
I'm trying to, like I say, I've more than killed this, but I have to emphasize that's the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Okay. So if we can define the cost codes and put them in here, and I won't get into the detail, right? But literally define what you know, you want to put on here. Add your budgets or your forecast units, hours, dollars, whatever it happens to be, and you know, off to the races we go. Essentially, we have our costs and all that down here. Now, applying markup or identifying the price. Really, again, you're able to provide or put in your overhead rate and your rate there, and then on revenue, you're able to again put in your total dollars there, right, and compare that against your costs and look at your margin. Now, we had said that when it does come time to win a project, or you can just convert it, so you don't need to retype or recreate anything to turn an estimate project into an actual, right? That all follows suit. And then once it's on that side, there are other tools that we can use to build out estimates. So if I go back to, I can feel it's getting late in the day. My brain's getting a little fuzzy. There are estimates and estimate lines. There's also an estimation worksheet. So what an estimation worksheet does is it allows you to take costing related to jobs and projects and basically look at any one of those, decide what your price basis is, look at your different elements of cost that are built up through the various pieces and components, mark them up different values. So I'll mark up my run times by 50%, and my materials I'll mark up 20%, just a couple of numbers out of the air. Apply that markup. It's going to go run and do my quantities. This example is selling price breaks, so it's giving different quantities and how much for each price break. But ultimately, this allows you to go out and do that. Of course, you can change the operations or the materials.
When you say setup, what are you referring to?
That is really if you're getting into jobs, and it's probably more detailed than I just went with you, but you could set up your estimate jobs from the shop that differentiate setup from runtime.
Okay, the reason why, you know that on the average job, there's probably several thousand setups. Every operation you have requires someone to read instructions and set up.
That's manufacturing.
Yeah, so that's different from run.
Yeah, and we acknowledge that for scheduling, because you have to, economy of size, right? It's more
Scheduling and for costs.
Yeah, it's more economical to run a batch of 50 than a batch of 1.
Yeah,
right?
but I think I don't see the value of this report like that.
This isn't a report. This is just a tool to calculate the price. Take all your costs. Okay.
I wouldn't use it at all. That's not.
How do you calculate your margin or your what is the end price after you put in all your costs?
Put in all my costs. There's a certain margin we want to make.
Just across the board, whatever you have.
No, some things we don't mark up at all, but it's big. I work out the hard loaded cost, or the loaded cost. That's, with.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I work out the hard cost. I have a formula that it strictly what you're paying people in the basic bones material, and we're after a certain margin, and we play with the contingency and the profit to generate that figure. So, and some things we don't mark up at all, like shipping, things like that. But we seldom, very rarely, will put different markups for different items.
Okay.
It's across the board in general. We're trying to make so much money for that project.
Okay, so if these groups aren't right, I mean, you certainly don't have to
No, I'm just
do it that
thinking
way.
that it might be detail that won't be used.
Okay.
It just doesn't.
Or you could change these categories, right, to shipping at 0 and your different categories as you would see those.
Could do that.
Right. Again, personalization. We're changing the fields and the way we calculate what it's looking at for the source.
See, the kind of estimating we do here is a lot more sophisticated than your penny tractor or whatever, a lot of things. It's an extremely high level, and a lot of people can't envision the kind of detail we go into. It's very, very custom.
And historically, we don't usually mark up our projects/jobs from cost of goods. We have a sales team that goes and says, okay, I'm going to sell this customer a flying theater. It's going to be $21 million. That's the sale price is agreed upon based on some data. So they hit $21 million. That's the signed contract. We do that. Now Rick estimates it's okay. $21 million is what our sale price is. He's going to estimate and say, well, it's going to cost us $15 million to make, and then that calculates our margin there. We don't go.
So you'll sometimes have the price you're going to charge before you ever install.
Oh yeah. That's an ETO company.
It's just like this. It's as simple as this. If I gave all of you a quick test of what food in supermarket, steak, chicken, whatever, and give me a rough idea, you could do it if I hit you cold. Same thing with a project. I can generally look at a project very quickly, and I'll tell you roughly what it's before I even start. and I'll be that close.
Right.
Because we have done thousands of these
Experience.
experience. It's no different when you look at a car coming down the street, you say, oh yeah, that's about 24,000. You know after a while. And if somebody came with a generic Ford and they said, oh, that's a $125,000 car, you go, something's wrong with this picture. Well, it's the same thing with us. We develop fields, and there's many ways we can look at something quickly to get an idea, and then we go into detail to determine. But that gut feel check in the beginning is very important, because if you look at something and say, that's a $50 million job, and you come out $75 million, there's something wrong. So you go back. So,
I tell you, to do a gut feel estimate is really easy. It's when you ask us to put all the detail behind it that it really gets complicated.
well, that's what we do. A lot of people, they have no idea, like, they're so used to hearing man hours a ton, dollars a pound, hours a foot. That's just a general check. But we go into a lot of detail, a lot. And we do it quickly because, again, that's what we've been doing for years. But most people can't envision the details that we go into. I mean, we have to cover everything. And I don't have time to go out for fiberglass siding or electrical or this and that. We have to know it all. So, again, I don't want to get sidetracked, but we generally, as Jeff said, there is a market price on everything. You cannot sell a lot of our products for more than a certain value. So we have to prove what it can be done for. Literally prove it to management. What we're doing is selling management. We have to say, yep, you can do it for this.
Okay, guys, we're at 3:30 and we only have to 4. We still have to go through IT and then hopefully Carvel when she comes back. So do we have anything more to show Rick on the estimating side so we can wrap up that part of it?
Detail, but I don't think that's relevant.
So I think in I see where you're going with that, and there's some things that will be important, and some things I'd say they're little value. Again, at a later date, we can talk about what's important.
Sure.
And I'd like to bring Agus in, because I think the two of us can give you a very realistic appreciation of what is needed. And I think we know what most departments need.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of this journey is we're learning a lot about you and you're going to learn a lot about us.
The estimate drives the job.
Yes.
That's why we have to know. We have to know what every department does and what they need.
Okay, shall we carry on into IT?
Yep, let's carry on into IT. I think Carvel said she was going to try and be back at 4, so if you have time, we'll get back.
What kind of questions do you have?
Well, Rick, if you don't want to stay for the IT portion, we've already told most of the other people they don't need to stay for IT.
I'm interested.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to actually pull up.
Your department.
Steve, I think we might not have been recording that last piece,
I didn't stop it.
but it hasn't been showing on your screen, so it wasn't showing.
Too late now.
Well, it's
Like closing the barn door after the horse
Yeah.
runs away.
Okay, well,
I'll
you
start
were
recording now.
By
So
the
you should.
way, I was very, even though I'm not in HR, I was very impressed with that HR.
functionality they have.
Yeah, that looks really good. That's really good.
Okay, so I can't. So I'm going to move over to your laptop, Steve, because I can't do GoToMeeting for whatever reason it broke. That's okay.
So what kind of IT discussion do we want to do?
So, I guess, let's go over, you had some questions earlier today, so let's just hit those. I would like to see, well, hit those first, and then we'll go from there.
Well, the question I asked this morning is about data migration. Migrating data from FabTrol to this, getting all that current information for work in progress. We probably wouldn't have to bring over very many historical jobs, like actual closed jobs, maybe just to a certain point, but we want to have that bill of material brought over, that purchasing information, we
have to be very, very careful with what we bring over, because a lot of what is in FabTrol is a mess.
Well, the MDB, I agree with that.
It's a mess.
But we have open purchase orders that are going to be delivered. We have to be able to receive those
Okay, so
and put them into inventory.
At that point, run simultaneously until we close that in FabTrol and everything new in
We could.
the new system.
We could, but that's why I'm asking if we can migrate that information, and as we said before, scrub that data so it's clean. We're bringing in clean data so it's workable in this system, and don't bring in the garbage data.
Okay, but how would that work regarding formatting, things like that?
What do you mean formatting?
Well, formatting of, are we going to keep the same structure for projects, for POs, the same numbering systems, all that stuff?
Well, that again is part of the migration process. So you say, like PO numbers, good example. PO numbers, if we buy this system out of the box, it starts at PO number 1. We're at PO number 1173 right now. So do we say when we migrate the data over, the first starting PO number in this system is the next number that would have been the next number in our last system?
Okay, what's your guys' recommendations? What do you usually do in this scenario?
Well, the fact that your jobs are multiple years, I totally understand what Jeff's comment. Converting dynamic data is exponentially more work than converting static data. However, we can do this.
Part of my challenge with data migration for this company specifically is that because we are type size grade, and we are so project based, we can have part number 1 that in one project is a mouse, and part number 1 is a phone in the next project, and in the next project it's a cable, and we don't have standardized part numbering across our projects at this point. So that's an engineering initiative that's happening at the same time as we are doing an ERP initiative to standardize, to productize some of the way that we order and do our engineering, which would support the system a lot more than where we're at right now. So it's been a challenge, right? The materials database, it was opened up and then it's been locked down to have a librarian for it. There's so many factors that I think that we'll have to think about.
Is this apart from like the P numbers or for fasteners, the B numbers?
Yeah, what Megan is saying, the manufactured parts that are made from raw material, they're not unique across globally. A bio part is unique. A B1157 bolt is always a 1/2 inch by 2 in every project. Because that goes from the content center, and same thing with the C parts, which are bio parts. They're, in the last 2 years, we've nailed that down. But in a manufactured part that's made from raw material, like you said, like a P1 could be a 2x2 gusset that goes on a wide flange. On project B, it could be a piece of HSS tubing. So that's the problem that we have with that type of migration of that information.
An issue.
And you'll most likely never see that part again.
Yes, we set up specific costed items with a generic description that you can change, and because it's specific costed, it could be a $2 bolt or it could be a $2,000 motor, right? So the cost carries with that item, and so does the description. So you just have one generic P2 item that you know where it's supposed to go, but it has a specific cost associated with it.
But that, I don't know if that's what you really want. What you want is the unique identifier.
Yeah, we want to be, our current system is a fabrication software. It's not a manufacturing software. So in a fabrication software, part marks and mark details don't matter. we look at what type of material it is to be a piece of angle iron that's 2 by 2 by quarter, grade 44W. That's the unique identifier in our manufacturing software, fabrication software. And like the Megan said, that same 2 by 2 by angle iron, 12 inches long, could be a P1 in one job. It could be a P75 in a different job. It could be a P81 in a different job. We want to go to more of the way of manufacturing software is, where we're part number driven. So when engineering call up a P1 on this job, it's going to be the same P1 that we used on the last job, the last job, the last job. It's going to be the same P1 that we have in our inventory and stores. So we have a job a cost associated to that P1. Right now, we can't do that. And that's what we want to try and do. And that's what the problem is, like with the data migration, that type of product is now very project specific rather than product specific.
See, in structural steel, they do use a lot of standards, like building steel, stick steel. Very easy to make common end plates and gussets, and they can carry the same numbers for years. But in what we do, there's very few identical components. You'll have a similar switch, but because of the track height or the loading and that, it can vary and affect many parts. Practically, I don't know how you could do it with what you're saying.
That's why I was saying we might not be able to do it. We might have to run one and then do a cutover and then finish some things in that one and continue on in the new
It's great
system.
in theory, but
Well,
it's tough to do.
We've done it before, unfortunately, with different systems. With both Fabtros, all Fabtros.
it depends on how your guys' software works with your item master and inventory. Because, I mean, realistically, I've done it in FileMaker. I've migrated our entire Fabtro database into FileMaker as a standalone system. I did it within 10 minutes. So I can do it as a non-programmer in a software that's not as complex as
You're
this.
talking about the content center, you're talking about the
I'm
material
talking
database?
the bill of
MDB.
material, the MDB, the purchase orders, purchase order received, and stock tables. I've imported them directly into the FileMaker solution. So I've basically migrated all that data into there. But it's, again, as a project-specific item, like that P1 is on project number A, that's specific in that BOM and that purchase order.
But going forward with the product base, which is what we're talking about, is
That's why I'm asking the question about the migration. It's how is the item masters in your inventory system controlled?
Well, there's item masters and there's also non-inventory items. And non-inventory items are like a dumbed-down item, meaning that you can't have inventory on it. There's very limited data attached to it, like a description and a unit of measurement. That's about it. So for some of these items, these legacy items, it might be easiest just to import them the way they are as a non-inventory item. So you've got that placeholder. Right. And if you had to copy that bill of material forward, you'd have to go in and replace those non-inventory items with the appropriate part number, or that as part of the implementation cycle to do a mapping or go in and change them, often using the 80-20 rule, right? There's going to be 20% of your jobs that you copy 80% of the time, so to speak, and you want to focus on those ones first. But again, I'd want to see the data before I would want to say that we're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could do it that way because, like I said, the chances of us taking, say, a project and copying that project and building it again are slim to none.
Right.
I know you probably will hear from a lot of people, oh no, we're going to build the same thing again and again and again. We're not. Like, you know, we could look at the big job we're doing now, the MK job. We're building 3 of those rides. And I think there's some more on the pipe. 5 years from now, we won't use that bill of material again. We're never going to build that again.
No two vehicles are ever the same.
So those part marks aren't going to
Always
be
never the same.
used again in another job. We have what we call our flying theater. Well, that's what we're trying to build as a standard project or product. But even every flying theater we built is a little bit different from the one we built last time. The customer says, well, I want 72 seats instead of 36 seats. I want 84 seats. Oh, but it's going to go in this building, which is shorter, so now all the structures are changed. And I said, well, I don't want the same kind of flying theater as my competition in Orlando has. I want something different. So we're never going to build the same thing twice. As much as people will say we are, we're not. Sorry, I've been here 14 years and I've heard it for 14 years. So those legacy jobs, like say, like the Batman ride, the AmeriCart rides, if that manufactured part P1 is a piece of blanket iron, but on this new job we're doing here is a piece of HSS, then moving forward with new jobs we put into the system, we can standardize those mark numbers. And that would be something that we would discuss with engineering to do that. But I think it's important to have that data into the system. We've done it many times before where we've used multiple production softwares at the same time until these other jobs were finished. And coming from a supply chain background and doing that, it's a nightmare. It's a real, and that was when we did a lot fewer jobs. And now we're much busier, we're a much larger company, it's a nightmare. If we can get it into one data source, and deal with the little bit of headaches from there, that would be preferable in my opinion anyways.
Sure. About stuff we shouldn't be talking about without signing this.
Go ahead.
Oops, I said too
Yeah.
much.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't use the real names.
We giggle, we say it's the same, but different.
Right?
Well, you said it good this morning, Andy, is that we're an ETO company. And that's what we'll always be. Engineer to order. And it's so hard to do a product based.
Company.
We're not Chevy trucks.
Good news, the 11th, been there.
Been there, done that.
11th, 4th.
And I would love, trust me, I would love to be in a mark number based system. So, we only have to release a part mark number from the engineering department into the BOM of a ERP system, and it automatically populates what material it is, how long it is, and all that stuff. So we don't have to import all that data.
Okay, so
That would be beautiful.
from this, what I get is we're going to have a sit down. We're going to have to look at the data, and we're going to have to see what you guys, because we're just beating a dead horse.
Yeah, we
until
are.
you guys, until we show
So
you what
see
we've
it,
got.
exactly. We're only guessing.
Exactly.
And that was only one IT question I had. So
That's okay.
I can't too.
You were not one, so you're not.
you never said I'm limited to questions. I can't even remember the second one I had.
That's why I'm good, it's okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Go down second door, or, second
End of
door.
the hall on the right.
So just so I don't like to do this once,
And if that,
you want
I need to sign.
ESS,
go down.
signature, my name and date, no essential software listed anywhere?
You can put essential software right above the signature, that's fine. And that's, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, any
Sorry,
other
guys.
kinds of IT questions, Jeff?
That was a big one.
You had one. Before we go any further, just a quick, Chris asked that question about the raw materials, and we already talked about, I talked to her about the material
Oh.
lot number.
Consumption of inventory.
Consumption of inventory is what she was wanting to.
Consuming a buyout part is relatively easy. We issue, 2 proximity switches and 14 bolts from inventory.
Yeah.
The consumption of raw material that we actually manufacture in-house.
Yeah.
So we have a raw material like a piece of plate, an 8x20 piece of plate, and it's got a heat cert associated to that plate.
Yeah.
When the shop puts that on the burn table, they burn out all the
Understood.
parts. We want that part to say it's come from this plate with
that
this heat lot,
Yeah, we understand.
but then we also say if we have, say, 200 of these parts and they can't get cut out of that same plate, it's going to get cut out of this plate and this plate and this plate, and they all have different heat lots.
Numbers.
We need to be able to associate that
We understand.
and some way of automating it, not having a person manually going in and say, okay, part P1 on drawing SA44 came out of heat lot XYZ.
All parts, cradle to grave traceability, heat number will be assigned to each piece.
And how does the system handle that? Like,
Tracking it?
well, how does it, how does we consume raw material? Like right now,
One of two ways.
we currently in our system, we have, and I was told that I wasn't supposed to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. Nesting and cut bills. So what our software does is it takes all those parts, say 1/4-inch plate, it nests it, summarizes it, says, okay, you have a piece of plate in stock that it can use and consume this plate. And then we say, okay, we've cut it that way. It now associates that bill of material line item to that inventory item. So that's how it's consumed when the closing of the cut bills. And we've never really talked about that, how inventory is consumed in this software.
Yeah, there's two ways. One is through back flushing. And back flushing means when you report an activity or a completion on it, it will take all of the bill of material associated with it and automatically deplete inventory and add it to WIP. That said, if you're doing lot and serial number tracking, back flushing is a dangerous thing because you're assuming that they're taking the oldest batch first.
Yeah, and that's not.
And you can't. And that's where the handheld device is really handy.
Correct.
It's just a beep, beep. It's not really more effort to tell it which lot you put on the table. It's just a couple of clicks. And in doing that will make sure that the right batch is assigned to the right pieces. Back flushing, you can do it, but you're putting a lot of faith in the operators.
But worst case scenario, say we don't go with that handheld scanner or whatever thing you called it, and how would we handle it?
Well, you'd have to do it through somebody has to sit down at a workstation and do the transaction.
Is that what you want?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we want. We don't want a manual transaction.
I don't think, I wouldn't recommend not getting the handheld. I think that an ERP shines brightest when the information's real time.
Yeah.
Right?
So Steve's directive, I know, is to have real-time data.
Right.
He, for our costing for it and everything,
Right.
wants to have our operators be scanning in real time with what they're doing. You scan in your code, you scan in your work order or your job order, or however we want to call it through the system, but you scan into your work order, which is, you're scanning into what route you're on.
Yep.
I'm in QC, I'm scanning into QC, I'm pulling raw material, here's the material I'm pulling for it, blink, here's the operation I'm doing for setting it up on the burn table, blink, I'm gonna get paid for the time I put on to actually burning it, right? And Donna, you can reinforce this. Steve wants real-time data, right? He wants scanners, he wants handhelds, he wants everything in real time.
So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
You can always go in and do it the old-fashioned way, right? If an operator forgot to enter one through the handheld, you can come in and add an inventory transaction or do a receipt through the interface. Yeah, but it's
Usually there's a mistake made or
really
something, usually super that's,
And then it'll like,
right,
someone else will.
right.
So, do we want to touch on the technology piece?
I definitely want to touch on the technology piece. I have questions about that.
All right. It's all based on .NET, okay, but it's built in modules. So at the beginning, we had said that you're not just getting an ERP system, you're getting a development platform. You can buy modules on its own and build your own system if you wanted to.
I was not about it.
No, I'm not suggesting you did want to, but I said if you did.
No, we're taking you 90% there.
But it's literally a platform that you can build out and enhance and add new modules if you wanted to. It's a platform. It's built up of forms, which we've looked at a lot, search features, reporting, and integration with the Office suite, as well as documents and charts. It's relatively flexible because it is based on .NET. It's extensible, and we looked at the design tools really shortly there to show you how we can make a certain field required, right, to enforce fields that aren't necessarily required out of the box, right? And workflow, we also touched on those event handlers and the ability to escalate things as a PO line is left blank, for example, and we've received it. Okay. As we go through again from an accessibility perspective, multi-site, so you can run it through a browser. Right now, you can see up at the top here, we've got, this is Chrome. Right? When I was running on my machine, I was actually doing it through the more traditional install client. So there's multiple deployments.
You can do it on iOS, you can do it on any platform as you basically said on like
Yeah.
Google?
Sorry,
Google?
Google Docs? What do we?
Google Forms.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A lot of them haven't actually gotten up to where Google Forms actually work.
You know what, I will check that. I know we
Because I
always
do
say
have some people that
iOS,
have Google Forms.
Android. Okay. Web applications, and then we looked at that with the portals, access from the web and such. Integrations, we touched on a little bit, but there's an open API, which means that you can connect with anything that's talking XML or web services. Really, it's just a data mapping exercise, and then defining who is the parent and child, you know, as far as the direction of information flow.
Yeah, that was one of the prerequisites, because we need definitely need open.
Yeah.
So going back just 1 second on the API thing.
Yeah.
The one other question that I did have this morning too is about importing the data from our drawing or vault or enter data into the BOM in here. And I don't think I don't remember the answer to that.
Well, I guess
Is it via API, or is it like we have to create an export document from our vault and then import another document?
there's two things that we're going to look at. And I'm not going to say I have the.
We showed you a little bit this morning, but we can talk about it.
I'm on the wrong machine, but I showed the CAD integration.
There's
Take the drawing.
built-in CAD integration to your Autodesk or Inventor Vault, bill of material, ERP, same thing.
But that said, you guys just told me you don't have any part numbers in your drawings and bill of material.
Project by project.
So they're unique per project,
Okay.
but not across multiple
But
projects.
if we wanted to bring in all of those bills of materials, right, from your engineering system, we probably have to address, or at least look at, how we're going to handle all those pieces and parts that will make up the bill of material for which the part number may be changing.
Right. Correct, yeah. I mean, currently, right now, the way that we look at it, you talk to the people in design and engineering, and they say, well, yeah, that P1 is different from the P1 on this job because they include the project number as part of the part number. So it's a, 14-136-P1 is different from a 14-157-P1.
Right.
Well, they're different. It's not a P1, it's not a P1. That's how they look at it. Because they still think on the project by project basis.
There are other ways, but long and short of it is there's a few different ways we get them in. The big question, I think, will be sorting out your data, figuring out what we want to do with those variables. Once we decide that, getting it in is relatively easy. So I just show you over here on the bill of material imports exports. You can take it from a PLM, right, through an interface like that. We have our interfaces that I showed you, and there's also third-party ones. Now, there's also bulk imports, right? So this allows to import multiple BOMs from import PLM or other CAD systems. I use bulk import parameters so that you can set up different things. So there's different ways to import bulk bills of materials, right? I think we just got to address the issues in the bills of materials, and then we can apply.
Right. Because for CAD application interfaces, that's done via the API in the Autodesk product and the API in your product?
It's actually an API within Visual working with the CAD Link software that runs inside Autodesk Inventor. Sorry? Within the ERP, it's the API that's bringing in the.
Yeah, so you need the API for both yours and Autodesk product.
Yeah, this bulk
Because you can't, because the reason I asked is you can't SQL query, you can't write a query and query the data from Inventor or any Autodesk product.
You cannot.
Yeah, signature policy, licensing policy. You cannot write an SQL query and query data from any Autodesk products. They have a licensing agreement saying you can't do that. You can do it by API, but you can't query it unless they've given you guys permission to do it.
Somehow we do it.
Because we're not allowed to do it.
You probably know way more than I do, and we know. But somehow we do it with Inventor.
Okay.
CAD Link lives in.
With any kind
That's
of.
perfect. That's great. Because
PLM or
that's
any kind of
separate
CAD
than
system that creates bills of materials, we bring it in.
Yeah, like if I went in and I say I created an Excel spreadsheet and I wrote an SQL query to
Maybe they've got
pull
some
the data out
kind
of
of a
the
licensing
Inventor,
agreement that allows.
I wouldn't be allowed to do that.
I don't know.
I could do it, but if they found out,
Right.
Donna would probably fire me,
And you get on the,
and I'd be getting in a lot of trouble.
I can give Ray a call and Kathleen to see what their answer is.
yeah, well,
Because if it's a live link, that's
we've been
great.
doing it for years, so.
It's just field
Yeah,
mapping.
It's not a live link,
your
it's a push.
licensing,
I'm
right?
not sure what
Push
the
the data.
reality
Yeah,
behind
it's
that.
something we'll have to look into.
Attributes and that.
I'm sure you had that, I'm sure it is an API, I mean, if you're saying that Autodesk is exposed to an API,
Yeah.
so that you.
Because I think we can get the API from it, can't we, Donna?
I was actually gonna say, because I think the technology's gonna take quite a bit longer, and I don't wanna hold you guys up for very long, and I know that Megan has to get out of here pretty quick. Would it be okay, because we were talking about scheduling for parts and service, I wanna take a look at that. I also would like to take a look at, we were talking about
Sorry.
Elkton here.
Any questions?
CRM, I actually wanna look at the CRM side of it, because I do deal with the salespeople and the salespeople and the stuff that they use, and I'd like to see how we can integrate that in, because we really would like us to have transparency of one system that we can all work in. So I'd like to see that, and then maybe we can just do a IT portion, so we can take a look at these and just touch base on those, and then have an IT.
So part of what I would recommend for, as we move through, some of the next sessions is that, I think the idea is that we get a demo of the capabilities of the system. And then we need to actually sit down and go through our requirements document with you, where we go through, how do we meet this, where do we meet this, right? And on ones where we gap, we need to really sort of dig in on some of these things, like just asking some questions that are one specific requirement, right? But we didn't get an opportunity to see the demo of just the out-of-the-box capabilities that you came to show us,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
And so,
and that's what
so we have rapid-fired you guys, and you guys have adjusted to the format that it's turned into, but I think that we should draw back into a little bit of a format specifically for tomorrow for our engineering discussion, and then for some of our continued discussions that we have, that we go through, have the opportunity to demo it, you show us the capabilities, we document the questions, and then we start to go through some of the requirements in a session after the demo, where we go through and say, I have a question about
So at
this
least
one.
we cover what needs to be covered.
Right,
Exactly,
because
yeah.
right now, my feeling on it from this morning and this afternoon is, I know the capability of your system is so much more than we got to see, and that people only got to see a glimpse of it because we focused on certain things.
Right.
I'd like the opportunity to have it show off all the capabilities of it, right? We talked about work orders for one moment today and saw one screen. We saw for one moment a picture of the Gantt thing that you can move stuff around, and I know that for Ken that'll be important, for Alicia, for Ding, like we just
touched on
the
so many
format of how we allowed it to morph didn't allow us to see everything that you guys do. And tomorrow when we get with engineering,
Thanks, Megan.
there's going to be a lot of strong minds that go through and want us to really pigeonhole into certain things. And so I would almost request that they bring their requirement sheet. We allow them to demo tomorrow to the capabilities of the system, and then we go through where we don't feel that the demo covered on a certain requirement, that we can hone in on some of those and get into really the nitty-gritties in your system where you're showing it.
Sure.
And that we may have to have some of the other sessions where we have a 1-hour breakout with just supply chain or just quality to make sure that we've answered those questions to people. Sorry to just, but I feel like
I agree.
We're like picking at these guys right now.
What's happened was exactly what I was afraid of happening, which I talked to you about. I don't want us to pigeonhole what we do into your systems. I want them to say.
I want you to demo first what you got.
Exactly. I want to say this is our final product that we require. Show us how you get there.
Yeah.
I don't want to say we do it this way, and so you guys got to figure out how to make your system.
Instead of trying to.
I don't want to do that. We want to just make sure that we can get to the end product that we require.
Right.
And a lot of the nuts and bolts are under the hood, so to speak, is not necessary.
Right.
We want to see how you guys make a bill of material, how you guys look at the inventory, how you guys make a PO, how you receive it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
The press can be.
I agree with that.
So, demo first, then we go back and cover, did they cover this requirement for us? Yeah, we feel they did.
Yeah, no,
Then
I
we
think that's
focus on the ones where we feel,
I think that's important. I was trying to see if I can get that to you before
What's that, Donna?
So it might not be before tomorrow, but at least as I start to.
Well, we have an
educate
NDA
myself
now, I
about
wanted to see what, okay, so what we can do is Megan and I can sit down and pull that information for you. Let us know, like, information on what a project looks like, what a PO looks like, what the type of stuff, I guess.
Because I'm guessing at what I'm showing you here as far as what's
super
right and wrong
challenging.
for what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do.
Sell us on what you have.
Yeah.
But it
You're a
also-
car salesman, you want me to buy the Dodge Ram, not the Volkswagen.
Yeah, but he's, you know.
I'm not gonna come in and say, I wanna see what your Dodge Ram looks like in the Volkswagen thing. I don't want that. I want you to sell me the Dodge Ram.
Yeah, but if we're now telling them that we want to migrate our data from this to that, how are they supposed to get that information?
Well, I understand that. I kind of hijacked it and I apologize for it, but then going back to what Megan said, let's see what they have to
At least
offer.
conceptually, you now understand.
Right, 'cause-
what the possibilities are.
Right.
So we can do that after, as I said, we'll get that to you tomorrow, but we can actually show when we decide, you know, because we're going to have to sit down after this and have a sit-down review of these meetings, a few of us, and then go from there. But I still think we need to set up a time to go over the IT side more. Unfortunately, I have a meeting at 12 tomorrow, so, and I'm all afternoon, I'm booked.
We can go into next week as well, right?
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just looking at the schedule.
These guys will come back anytime, because they're local, right?
Or
Are
Carmen,
you-
I just.
Yeah, well, remember.
They're-
Yeah, I know.
You're
It's
not
not
the
like you're
only-
coming from the States or something.
No, it's easier for us,
Yeah.
but we still have our other commitments. But
Yep.
anyways, regardless, we'll do whatever we can to help. Are we available till noon tomorrow?
You have, your meeting is from 10 to noon.
Oh, it is?
Yes,
Oh,
meeting is
I was
10 to
thinking it
noon.
was 9 to 11 again.
No, it's
Oh.
10 to noon.
I just want to make sure that they are able to show the capabilities, and that then we can get into the nitty-gritty stuff.
Or at least high level with the capabilities.
Absolutely, right? So for me, tomorrow, it's going to be really important that we understand engineering bill of materials and what that then looks like as it's transitioned into an ERP system. And
Sure.
And there's specific questions and their requirements about master and slave and how we push or pull data. When there is a change to the data or a revision, how do we manage revision control in the ERP?
Right.
We touched on in this morning's meeting, but I know from use in revision control, it stops a work order. You can't scan into it, right? So there's things that we didn't touch on this morning that would have been really useful for people, but it would be nice to have that opportunity to go through it, the flow.
We were too accommodating.
Yes, there was it was a big group of people with a lot of different points that they were coming in from. So we rapid fired you guys pretty good.
Yeah.
Is
Do
Carlo
you
gonna
guys,
come back here?
she just sent me an email and she's still stuck in her meeting. So, but how is your morning? Like, could you guys come before 10? Because I don't know what your meeting is.
Early as 8:39-ish, depending on traffic, because I gotta get my kids to daycare.
But
and
8 to 10, I'm open if we wanted to set up a quick meeting to go over the IT stuff anyways, before the meeting we have at 10. How are you guys?
I can, I'm
Megan
pretty
has your
flexible.
schedule.
As long as you record it, I chair another meeting tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's fine. We'll
Steve,
record it.
how are you?
I've got the daycare thing too.
Yeah.
I'll drop them off at 8 downtown.
Okay,
9
so.
o'clock.
But if we did 9 o'clock start,
Well,
that would work
sure,
for everybody?
or if Dan and I can you get here at 8:30?
I could try and get here.
Why don't Dan and I get here at 8:30?
Okay.
Steve shows up when he can show up.
That works. Yeah, I think,
In this boardroom, not the other side?
I'm going to see what workshops I have available right now. I know I prefer that one.
But I also really want to thank you guys for your patience and trying to answer people's questions. And
Hey, I was gonna say, Megan, considering it was rapid fire, we did okay.
I am not giving you a failing grade.
If you do say so yourself.
I do say so myself.
But I know that your system has more capabilities than you got to show in certain places, and I think that
It's only the tip of the iceberg.
right. And
I
so,
But I like, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. It's okay.
What I do like is so easy to grasp. Everything you've shown, I like it.
It's intuitive.
Seems user-friendly.
It's common sense.
common sense, and it just, I think a person could get into it. As far as details, we know that's a given. You have a system, it can adapt to what's here. I know that. But I do like what I read. Everything you've shown looks good to me.
Well, we overcame a few anxieties today anyways, at the very minimum.
Well, the problem is, all of us have a selfish interest,
Of course, everyone does.
you know. But the problem is the current systems aren't working.
Right.
Gotta
And
make
everyone
it
knows what the current systems are not doing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're gonna zero in on.
And I always found too, at the end of the day, if you just accept the change and work through it, you'll pick it up pretty quick. I mean, I like the opportunity to be able to get something that would help us, but at the same time, at the end of the day, we can accommodate. I can see it working. We can accommodate whatever.
Well, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of stuff that we're gonna have to work with you guys to
Yeah.
set up and personalize, you know?
Yeah, and I don't see a problem there. I don't.
But those aren't the details that we're figuring out
Those are
today.
details.
Yeah.
And that's no different than any other client would have, right? It's not a surprise.
Today, we want to make sure that the system has the requirements that we need, that it will do what we need to do. It's not going to be in the same format that we've done it with the multiple tools that we have.
Well, you wanna make sure there's no showstoppers.
Correct. And I want to give you guys the opportunity tomorrow to make sure that we go through your piece of it and then answer some questions.
My analogy is, I forget the old program. When Excel first came out, and a lot of
Well,
people
10 o'clock will be there
want to use Excel. No, I can't, I forget what the other one was called. Lotus. And I can't change. And then they started using it, hey, it works. But it's like everything, you just change and accept it, and it'll work.
Yeah, just hang on a sec, I'm just looking, that the meeting tomorrow is here, but I said the other one is there, I just need to keep it on the seat.
And this room's pretty hot too.
Yeah.
I was catching myself. I think she brought me a coffee.
If we're still recording, this will probably end with
Oh.
recording it, right?
Let's do that.
So we're not gonna show Carla?
Carvel said,
Dawn, I have to step out for